Going live. Alrighty, I'm just gonna quickly make sure the audio is okay. Make sure it's okay. There we go. Alrighty, anyway, this has been nearly 5 years, but today I'm gonna go through a bunch of things in relation to the CCDH, Imran Ahmed. This guy you can see right here on the screen share. We're gonna react to that video a little later. But also a hit piece, or I guess a fake news article from the Sunday Times that came out in June 2021 that targeted me. So this is a very personal thing, and for the record, like if you really get into a situation like that where you're targeted by the media, it really does shock you if they're accusing you of all kinds of random things and can't even get things right. It is completely insane. So 2021, for me, this happened June 2021. We're going to look at parts of the article that is like the original article about this. It's kind of difficult for me to talk about. That's why it's been so long, because back then I was pretty affected by it, but I'm stronger now. My frame control's better, and it was just a crazy fucking experience. June 2021, I went through this, and then a few months later, Tom Torero was targeted by the media too. Not the same person, not the same journalist, not the same organizations as far as we know. But a few months later, Tom Torero was also targeted, and he ended up committing suicide. So this is really fucking serious stuff when the media targets people in this space for like the craziest reasons. And in my personal opinion, for legal reasons, the reason I'm doing this video, for me, I would probably class that as a traumatic experience. That's a traumatic experience I imagine Tom Torero went through months after this happened to me, and I would describe it as a traumatic experience for myself. Now, I'm not a fucking weakling. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be a fucking victim, but at the same time, I'm just throwing that in there because that's the language that these woke guys like to fucking use. So I'm simply declaring this was literally a traumatic experience, because those woke guys won't be able to fucking handle that. But anyway, let's fucking go into the shit. It is completely insane. We're going to react to this video a little later, but let's change this up for a do something else. Present. That just changed it. Okay. Let's present this first. Let's go for the article. Where it all fucking started. So this is from the Sunday Times, 27 June 2021. News. Single men boast about, and they used a terrible fucking word, which is literally a crime, but that is literally not what happened. On social networks, on a social network, Game Global for pickup artists, and I blurred out parts of this because it contains a lot of stuff which is questionable. Some things I wouldn't necessarily want to show, even if some of them are untrue. But I'll go through the gist of it. It basically says, report uncovers the misogynistic side of a dating tips website partly run by a writer of children's books. Now, that doesn't refer to me. It refers to one of the others at Game Global. Investigation. I'll get to that part later. They showed me their investigation document. It is not impressive. It is like, I went to university and you had to do dissertations, research, lots of things, and you would have to use sources and stuff like that. Most people in university, when they wrote their fucking dissertations and essays, they were really fucking bad at doing research. They wouldn't even reference correctly. I knew how to reference articles, research, and various other sources years before I went to university. These guys investigated, but they claim to be researchers, but in my opinion, for legal purposes, the research was fucking garbage, and they decided to publish a lot of information that is simply not true. So when I say the words fake news, it's fake news because they didn't even get my fucking name right. So that before this fucking happened, like, I wasn't really into reading newspapers. I never fucking read newspapers really, or magazines or shit like that. And sometimes I would watch the news, but I'll make sure to get like a range of news, like Sky News. That seems pretty good. Russia Today, which is banned in a lot of countries now. That was really good with documentaries and stuff like that. But I wasn't obsessed with the news. But when something like this happens to you, and I think this was like a double page or something, or like one big, I can't fucking remember. It looks like one single page. When your photo, a photo of you, and they pick the most obnoxious photo they can fucking find, when a photo of you takes up a quarter of a fucking page or a double page, whatever this was, it is really fucking shocking. That day, I had to go into the fucking store. I was living in London at the time, which is where this fucking came from. The Sunday Times is an English news thing, and they publish it there. I had to go to a fucking store, not knowing what they actually wrote, and then buy it, hoping that nobody would recognize me from. I don't think it was the front page or anything, but it was one of the first fucking pages as far as I remember. Something like that, like crazy, like hoping nobody fucking notices. Anyway, written by Shanti Das. I'll just go through a few things here. I made a few focuses for a reason. Game Global, a network of pickup artists. It's kind of strange that they like put quotation marks around that, who coordinate attempts to get women into bed. Like, that's the end of the sentence. It doesn't quite make sense. And then it's a new sentence. Okay, I just noticed that after all these years. I have not looked at this for fucking years. This is how bad I thought it was initially. Members discuss tips for targeting strangers in the street and post field reports in which they boast of gaming women into sex. By the way, that's not what a field report is. There are guys who are driven by ego who make it about some kind of success, but the point of a field report in the past, in the present, and the future, and this is written specifically on our website for many years, is that a field report is regardless of the outcome. If there's something to learn from your dating experience, that's great. There are just some guys before Game Global existed who would make a greasier version, and they'll go into detail, like pulling a woman and hoping they would get validation from other guys. I think that is kind of a problem. I've seen it before. I have even participated in it myself many years ago, but it's not really a healthy thing. So I like to teach people the real direction. If you're going to post a field report, have it so that it doesn't focus on the result. In some cases, guys are posting lots of field reports where there's no sex at the end of it, but they're posting it because they learned something, or they're asking for support in terms of what there is to learn. That is the right reason And that is more often than not what a field report actually is. Posts describing deception, rape, and sexual violence are common, which is just completely fucking ridiculous because rape is a crime. And if this claims to be an investigation, then where are the criminals and why has nobody been arrested? Rape is literally a fucking crime. So to say posts describing deception, rape, and sexual violence are common, in my opinion, I think that's complete fucking bullshit because if that was even remotely true, then the police would be fucking in on this and get out their fucking cuffs and take those people away because that should not be fucking happening. And I was very clear about this with them when they first contacted me. You see, in England, there's this requirement that the media contacts you in advance of an article that's being written about you so that you can provide comment and you could give them a paragraph. And sometimes, well, most of the time, because I've been in the news a lot more on a much more positive note in the last few years since, they'll basically just include a sentence they picked out of your paragraph or half a sentence, which has happened to me numerous times since this occasion. The activities of the network's followers are laid bare in a report by the Center for Countering Digital Hate, CCDH. Researchers, we'll get to that. I'll fucking show you how bad it is. Identified 500 game global groups, which is incorrect because the website stated the number, so they didn't even have to try counting them. It literally displayed it on there, and they could have just done Control F and counted very easily. So exactly 500, that's incorrect. Approximately, like if you look at how it is now, we got 310 cities on Telegram, 310 cities on Facebook. So it exceeds 500 by quite a significant amount. And even back then, that was also the case. But we're not here to pick apart the fucking numbers. It gets worse. But anyway, game global groups on social media with more than 26,000 members globally, mainly on Facebook and the unencrypted messaging app Telegram. I love how they use the encrypted because they're trying to pick apart Telegram a little later. Speaking in pickup artist slang, members or gamers discuss dating, Tinder profile photos, self-esteem, and how and when they meet women. They include men suffering from social anxiety and those who have never had a girlfriend or have been addicted to porn. It's kind of fair enough. Hundreds of posts are from members seeking a wingman to aid them during approaches to women known as sets, which has nothing to do with us because we did not put that in the glossary, and it's not even included in the game glossary because women are humans. They're not sets. You can blame someone else for that. That's nothing to do with me. Game Global has in fact been attempting to remove weird words like this. I know where it personally comes from. It came from people who existed before Game Global existed. It has nothing to do with us. In busy public places such as Oxford Street, and I tell you, and Westfield Shopping Center, and there were like two of those, which I have been to. Years ago, when I used to live in London, Oxford Street was such a crazy place. I just hated going there. Not to do game. Like I would never fucking do game there, and I would just avoid the place almost entirely if I could. I used to work kind of close to that, and I used to go to university 2 minutes away from it on Regent Street. So when I would walk down Oxford Street because I fucking had to for career or education purposes, I hated it because of the crazy amount of tourism. People would not get out of the fucking way. And it's like, dude, do you know how to fucking walk in a straight line? It's not fucking hard. It's just so chaotic and stressful trying to fucking walk down there. And back to the game stuff, I would literally see quite a few pickup artists around that street. Like you could walk 1 mile down Oxford Street and you could probably quite easily identify at least 5 pickup artists. And some of them years ago when I used to stroll through there, not out of my own sheer will, some of them would recognize me, come up to me and be like, hey, I have like a business opportunity or whatever. And they kind of annoyed me some of the time. But some of the people who did come up to me were really nice, genuine people. But we're not here to discuss that. Among field reports of the approaches, jokey remarks, and requests for advice, researchers uncovered men, and then the rest is just kind of irrelevant. Here's the crazy report. So they wrote, this journalist wrote, one member said he yearned for the caveman days where I can funk them in the head and fuck them when I want, adding women all want it. Now that part is completely fucking false. The quotation is real, but the person was not a member. And perhaps that's a good moment to share where that is, because I know that's on here. Let's find this in the document. Right. Let's see here. If I share this part instead. Bear with me. Gotta switch it here. Right. There we go. So this is the document they gave me after research. It has 38 pages, and this was almost 5 years ago. Let's quickly see here where that was. Yeah, so they say a member yearning for the caveman days, blah, 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 blah. And then I specifically told them 26 June 2021. You notice in the corner of that article, it was 27 June 2021. I told them before the article was even released, the user was banned. And then I maybe I later edited and said they failed to fucking report on that. The user was banned. He wasn't even a real member of the group. He was a troll. So if I open up my other documents here, let's see where this one is. Let's do this one. So here's the quotation Brian saw, and then you can see here he was just saying all these random fucking things. Oh yeah, there it is. Which was the caveman days. So that was 14 November 2020. 14 November 2020, he sends me a message in the morning. And he says, I can't message on the group anymore because he was banned. He was banned from the fucking group. And then I just fucking ignored him because he was a known troll at the time. He was not a genuine member. He was a troll, just a random fucking troll. And then 11 days later, he realized he was banned from the group and demanded to be added back in. He was banned the same fucking day that he said that shit. Because he said that shit. So for them to say that a member was saying this, he wasn't even a member. He wasn't even in the group for a long time. He did not have a title like these other users here. No title right there. These are their screenshots. This is not from my phone. These are their screenshots, their research. He was banned from the group. I literally told them that. And they did not give a shit because it's not accurate reporting, which is a problem in the world right now. Lots of inaccurate reporting. They can't even get my fucking name right. It's crazy. I specifically told them the user was banned. Let's see what else there is. We'll get to that part later. Let's continue with this article in general. Yes, it's live. Here we go. Yeah, there we go. Mainstream media lying about dating coaches? No way. All right, let's share this again. The original article there. One member. No, he was not a member. He was banned the same day he wrote that for writing this sentence. He was banned. He's not a member. And by the way, this is 27 June 2021. He was banned almost an entire year before this article was even written. And I told them he was already banned and wasn't a member before they released it. But they decided to fucking release it. So that was some fucking bullshit right there. Continue here. We're just going to focus on some of the highlights. There are some other things I probably would have liked to talk about, but we're just simplifying here. And they got my fucking name wrong. So I just don't want to give attention to that because there's some people out there now who think my name is John or Mitchell or these other fucking things because of shit like this. Game Global has said it is against rape and bans members who describe violence against women, such as the person you fucking quoted up there, but they don't want to fucking tell you that. Crazy. Saying such posts were probably meant as a joke and went against the ethos of its community, but critics, here's the crazy part, but critics have said the network normalizes sexual violence and can radicalize men. Imran Ahmed, chief executive of the CCDH, and we're going to get to that later. We're going to react to the fucking video he's in with Triggernometry. I have not watched it, but I think I've seen dozens of fucking comments pointing me towards it. So that's going to be a nice surprise. The drip, this is what Imran Ahmed said. The drip of misinformation and hate starts to reshape the lens through which members see the world such that they can be mobilized to commit real terrible offline harms, which is crazy to think about because if you really think about it, misinformation, this article is fucking misinformation. It is simply incorrect. They couldn't even get my fucking name right. My name is 2 words, 8 letters long. It's not fucking hard. Both words in my name are in the dictionary. I know it's a strange fucking name, but it's not hard to fucking learn how to spell it or to type it out. It takes 2 seconds. Crazy shit. Well, let's keep this going. They included my family in 1 or 2 places. Here's one of them. Network. Yeah, it was just describing the other guys who run this with me. Network with White, who is married with a baby daughter and formerly worked as a marketing specialist. Game Global claims to be far bigger than any other PUA pickup artist, forum, or network. Its leaders have podcasts on Apple and Podcast. I never fucking seen that shit. Provide a map of regional groups using Google, post coaching videos on YouTube, and sell books on Amazon, all promoted in their groups on Facebook, Reddit, and Telegram. In a statement, Game Global said, "We teach men to approach women in a manner which makes them happy and comfortable." That's clear from all our blog posts, podcasts, and YouTube videos. It's the guys with no game who are most likely to creep women out. There are 26,000 plus people in our network. Of course, you'll find a few hateful comments if you go looking for them. We do a good job of removing people who make these comments, but perhaps there's room for improvement. Speaking of which, we will fucking get to that too, because I asked these guys about that and they fucking ignored me every time. Facebook also removed some Game Global posts and said it did not permit content that advocates sexual harassment. And by the way, that's a lie too, because it says Facebook also removed some Game Global posts. They only removed one post. That's not some post. That's not plural. It's one singular post. And that post was reinstated within a matter of hours or something. So that post, yes, it was removed, but Facebook put it back up because it was just a fucking meme, a random meme. Nobody else created it. Well, nobody in Game Global created it, but they're saying there were multiple posts that were removed from Facebook. So then Facebook said it did not permit content that advocates sexual harassment, blah, 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 blah. We have over 35,000 people working to keep Facebook safe. And when we find content that breaks our guidelines, including within private groups, we remove it and then put it back up again. A spokesman from Facebook said. Telegram, legendary fucking platform, did not respond to requests for comment because they're not fucking snakes. Telegram, fucking shout out to those guys. Anyway, in this article, they got quite a few things completely wrong. They got my name wrong. They got these quotations wrong. What this member who wasn't even a member, who was banned almost an entire year before this article was published. It's just, that's by definition a lie. By definition, this is terrible journalism, a terrible investigation, bad research, and fake news. By definition. Completely inaccurate there. What else was there? There are several other things. Some things are blurred out that weren't quite true. Yeah, don't even get me fucking started. There's so many directions I can fucking go here. But let's see what's going on with the comments. Let's see. The trolls. I am shocked. Absolutely. Sorry about that mess, but it's time to talk about a few base of game. Game goes back. Nope. We're not hiding. We're not hiding a damn thing. That's the crazy part. What should I show first? Because there's just a lot here. There was something about their research. Oh yeah, let's talk about the CCDH, because that's like the main thing for me right now. Let's get to that. So I want to screen share this. There we go. I sent an email to the CCDH on 27 June 2021, 6 in the morning. Well, depending on the time zone. info@counterhate.com. Greetings. I have read an article that mentions CCDH and myself. However, I noticed a lot of inaccuracies and misleading information. I would like this message to remain confidential and forwarded to Imran Ahmed, the CEO of this anti-hate organization. Over the last few days, I have looked at a few pages of your website. Over the last few weeks and months, I've been planning videos that discuss consent. Plans also include a discussion on marital consent, a problem in India, for example, in which I would like to highlight how arranged marriages in India, for example, lead to marital rape. In India, for example, something which I believe was outlawed in England in the last few years, and that this was sent in 2021. Over the last few months, I've worked on improving our Telegram automated moderation tool. Over the last 2 years, since 2019, this was written in 2021. Since 2019, I have been planning and putting together an ongoing work in progress glossary for the seduction community, which includes a list of toxic terminology. The article and a document I was sent, choking here because there's so much crap. It's ridiculous. Man, I might die on stream. I better slow down. This is just too crazy for me. By the way, there's this Imran Ahmed guy. He's in the news recently, and that's some really exciting stuff to look at after this. So hold your fucking horses. There's a lot of crazy shit coming up. But anyway, let's continue here. The article and a document I was sent compromised a significant percentage of comments from users who were already banned or deleted. I have only had one brief look at the article so far, but my memory is telling me that most of the citations are from users who were already removed. And the reason their comments remained is because there are 288 groups at the time. And it's impossible to delete a user's messages across every single group without specifically finding them in each one by scrolling endlessly. It's simply not a feature in Telegram. There's a tool that removes users from lots of groups, but not that deletes messages from all the groups. Something nobody on earth has the time for, especially when there are over 300,000 messages across just 4 of these groups out of the 288 at the time. Which leads me to another point. Let's say we're looking at 1 million messages. I will say that again, 1 million messages. Less than 2 dozen were identified, and many of these, again, were from banned accounts, trolls, etc. And most of which were no more severe than anything written in 50 Shades of Grey. But I haven't seen you try to burn every copy of it or criticize the author, a book that has sold over 150 million copies as of 2017. And that's an old figure. What's the new figure? There's probably more to this, and there must have been some other emails, because I do remember specifically. Let me search that up because I forget to search it. Imran Ahmed. Yeah, it's a really long email. I can see the rest of it here. Let's see. See if I got another part of this somewhere. So here's 50 Shades of Grey. The #1 Sunday Times bestseller. So the same newspaper calling out this stuff, using this false information, inaccurate information, can't even get my fucking name right. The same newspaper supports 50 Shades of Grey. 50 Shades of Grey. Completely crazy. And here's an article from the Times, which is pretty much the same thing as the Sunday Times. Sunday is just a Sunday version. Pornography, it says in the dictionary, is material produced to stimulate sexual excitement. But says the author of 50 Shades of Grey, this year's S&M heavy bolt from nowhere bestseller. Whoa. It is definitely not porn. It is a love story, she insists. It has graphic sex in it, but people who fall in love have sex, and that's what they do. And so that's my answer to that. So how interesting that this rough sex kind of thing. Sunday Times fucking loves it. The Sunday Times books of the decade in the 2010s. Fucking on there. Daniel Tosh. I don't really know who that is, but he said, apparently, 50 Shades of Grey proved you can write about a dude choking women and shoving stuff up their butts, but heaven forbid you tell a legitimate joke about it. Sure, I doubled the number of feminists who hate me, but I also doubled the number of shows I have on TV. No regrets. What a man right there. Yeah, here's some quotations for 50 Shades of Grey. Next time you'll be in the cargo hold, bound and gagged in a crate. No problem for the Sunday Times. Holy crap. That's the problem with Christian's humor. I can never be sure if he's joking or if he's seriously angry. I suspect on this occasion he's seriously angry. You can't write things like that to me, bound and gagged in a crate. Were you serious or was it a joke? That scares me. You scare me. And as a reply to Christian in the email, man, I don't want to read more of this 50 Shades of Grey shit. It's crazy. Fans of 50 Shades of Grey argue that the book is about BDSM culture. Blah 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 blah. Gloria Brain, PhD, who is a sex therapist and author, says that BDSM is about consensual play, while 50 Shades of Grey shows Christian Grey pressuring Anastasia and blurring the line of consent. It's a bit of a strange topic to discuss. It's never going to be easy. Let's see what else we got in here. Oh yeah, and by the way, let's quickly read through this. There's this random Reddit post somewhere back around that time, and people were just like, let's see here. So there's this article is basically focusing on an Indian guy who wrote something on the groups a long time ago, and he was banned. He was also banned. He obviously did not know English very well. He was dyslexic. Everyone knew he was from India. And he wrote something that seemed kind of sketchy, but it was littered with grammatical errors, spelling mistakes. You can even see it here. She gave me constant. He can't even get that right. So he did say something that was kind of weird. Let me make sure I'm actually sharing the right thing here. He did say something that was kind of sketchy, and then people jumped on it. Lots of people jumped on it, tried to correct him and stuff like that. But these researchers didn't care about that. The researchers didn't care about that. Let's put it like that. There we go. So they just labeled this. They used this Indian guy who's dyslexic, who doesn't know English very well, to justify an article and kind of make it about rape. So they're saying this Indian guy is a criminal, but he was never arrested. He later clarified for the confusion, and the journalist could fucking see this well in advance, that she gave consent. He just didn't know English very well. So it's very convenient for a journalist to just, yeah, let's take this Indian guy who's dyslexic and make a whole thing about it, as if crimes were committed. If crimes were committed, why were no arrests made? It's a very simple thing. Like, to me, this seems like the whole premise is completely fake, because if it's focusing on a crime, they're writing about it, but nobody actually cares about the alleged crime that happened. It is extremely weird and suspicious. Let's open this one here. Stop sharing that one. And let's share this one instead. Where did that go? Right, let's try to share this one instead. There we go. There we go. So 2021, I believe this was around the time of that article, r/Game Global has been banned from Reddit. This community was banned for violating Reddit's rule against promoting hate. Very interesting. And then a few hours later, Reddit reinstated it. And here's what the moderator said, who reinstated it. What subreddit are you being brigaded by? You should be reporting that to Reddit under vote manipulation. Make sure to include blah, 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 blah. I have no idea where it's coming from. But yeah, here's ultimately, this is what was said at the end. He said, this moderator, I also see absolutely no hate on your subreddit. It's just dating advice for men. It's likely being cross-posted somewhere by users who just hate your subreddit mission. Even Reddit's moderation team is admitting that the CCDH, the Center for Countering Digital Hate, is hating on me and my platform. They're literally, this anti-hate group, the CCDH, is hating on this subreddit. And they try to get it banned, and they did. They got it banned for a few hours. And then it has been reinstated ever since. Crazy fucking times. And appear to be ironically generating the only hate there. I'm gonna fucking read that again. As much as I hate Reddit, I gotta give massive credit to this fucking guy, because this guy has a fucking brain. I also see absolutely no hate on your subreddit. It's just dating advice for men. It's likely being cross-posted somewhere by users who just hate your subreddit mission and appear to be ironically generating the only hate there. It's literally a subreddit with advice on how to be more appealing to women / dating advice, not a subreddit that hates them. Absolutely incredible summary. That just reminded me of something. I forgot to even consider this. Around that time, so they basically try to cancel me and cancel Game Global. They try to get posts taken down from Facebook. One was taken down. It was reinstated. You try taking things down from Google, reinstated. And Reddit, they tried to take our Reddit platform down, reinstated. They even, now that I remember this, they even tried to make a Wikipedia page about Game Global. So I'm going to share that too. Let's open that here. Stop sharing that. Let's present this one. It's not showing up. That's weird. Okay, how about now? It's weird. Come on. Try again. What the fuck? Like, it's here. Why is it so hard to show this? I'll just show the fucking screen, I guess. Yeah, let's go for that. Great. Wikipedia. Articles for deletion, Game Global. I did not even know we had a fucking Wikipedia page until it was already deleted, but it really didn't fucking last long. So I'm not really, I've been looking at Wikipedia since like the very early 2000s at the latest. I fucking love Wikipedia. Wikipedia is fucking great, but sometimes you get to see some suspicious things. People like the CCDH just trying to weasel their way to generate hate, just like this Reddit moderator was declaring himself. Ironically, they're the ones spreading hate. So let's see what's actually here. The following discussion is an archived debate of the proposed deletion of the article below. Please do not modify it. Subsequent comments should be made on the appropriate discussion page. Blah, 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 blah. The result was soft delete. Based on minimal participation, this uncontroversial nomination is treated as an expired prod. Blah, 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 technical stuff. Game Global, there it is. Apart from one negative article in the Sunday Times and repetitions of that article's coverage in places like the Daily Mail and Business Insider, I don't see any coverage. In other words, we're not that relevant, or at least back then. So this Wikipedia moderator, or whatever they're called, similar to Reddit, they concluded that they can't just allow someone from the CCDH or some random hater who is most likely associated with them anyway to just make a Wikipedia page about us and just hatefully cover it in negativity because of a negative article. So when was that? That was somewhere in 2021. Apart from one, I don't see any coverage. And this was December 2021. That specific message right there. Let's see what else. There are two good sources here, but that's all. I had a quick look and couldn't see anything else. December. And there was another thing here. It was on Google, on Wikipedia. And this is what the intro said. It said, Game Global is a website in which claims to help men better themselves on their dating lives. It was founded in 2018, which I don't think that's actually the case. I'm pretty sure it was 2019. It has been used and promoted by pickup artists and includes numerous accounts of male users boasting about rape, which is not true. You're just using an Indian guy who's dyslexic and doesn't know much English and confusing that when he clearly clarified that was not the case in sexual assault. Sometimes after drugging their victim. What? I never fucking even saw that part. That was nothing to do with anything. That wasn't even relevant. That's nothing to do with us. That wasn't even in their research or whatever. That's just fucking pulled out of thin fucking air of women by gaming them into sex or sexual. It's absolute fucking insanity. Anyway, let's see what's going on with these comments here. Drink some water. Yeah, definitely. Game got nuked, or what happened? Of course, it has bad press, always had. It's not nuked, it's just after nearly 5 years, I'm finally deciding to talk about this because back then I wanted to sue them, but I just didn't really have the money, and there was a statute of limitations. So in English law, try to clear myself here. There's, according to Section 4A of the Limitation Act in 1980, there's a 1-year window on suing a newspaper, for example, for defamation and stuff like that. So I really didn't have the time or resources at the time. And like it's a big fucking newspaper. They got way more resources, people, and whatever than I ever had. I have more money now and stuff, but I really genuinely did want to sue them because they can't even get my fucking name right. But at the same time, I was like, I wouldn't know if it would actually work because they technically didn't get my name right. So it technically doesn't identify me, but it does have a photo of me in the article, a massive one, and a very obnoxious photo that they chose. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're gonna talk about Imran Ahmed a bit more. It's crazy. It's crazy. This freak is constantly lying about people. He completely lied about what Andrew Tate said on Dr. Phil. Who was on Dr. Phil? What the fuck? Thankfully, Trump is working to deport him. Now's probably a great time to look at that. I really wanted to show this. Let's share the screen. I got so many tabs open, it's kind of crazy. Maybe it's this one. Judge blocks detention of British researcher who scrutinizes online hate, spreads it. Imran Ahmed, who runs an organization that chronicles disinformation, was among 5 Europeans the State Department had barred, claiming they promote censorship. A federal judge in New York on Thursday temporarily blocked the Trump administration from detaining a researcher, so-called researcher, who it accused of promoting the online censoring of American viewpoints. Imran Ahmed, the founder and chief executive of a non-profit organization that works to stop the spread of online hate and disinformation, was among 5 Europeans barred by the State Department from the United States on Tuesday. By the way, this was very recent. This was published on Christmas Day just a few weeks ago, less than a month ago. This is super new. Secretary of State, who's very busy, Marco Rubio, who's emperor of Venezuela and Cuba. He's got a lot of jobs right now. Said on social media that the individuals, all of whom work to tackle disinformation and abuse on the internet, apparently, were barred from traveling to the United States because he claimed they have led organized efforts to coerce American platforms to censor, demonetize, and suppress American viewpoints they oppose. This shit has become very political. Finally, Marco Rubio and Donald Trump are standing up for me here. The State Department said in a separate announcement that it had taken steps to impose visa restrictions on those individuals and that the administration was justified in moving to expel them from the country. Nobody has ever expelled me from the fucking country. It gets crazier. This is only one article. There are some other things we're going to look at. Let's see what else we can see here. Elon Musk's social media company had unsuccessfully sued CCDH in 2023. Let's see what else. Mr. Ahmed, who was born in Manchester and is of Afghan descent, said in a statement that he was proud to call the United States his home. I will not be bullied away from my life's work of fighting to keep children safe from social media's harm and stopping anti-Semitism online. Blah, 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 blah. I think the rest is not necessary, but here's Where's this? Here we go. Share this tab. So here's something from the CCDH itself, Center for Countering Digital Hate, the anti-hate group. Extreme misogyny and anti-feminist rhetoric are the foundations of a network of toxic online communities known as the manosphere. Blah, 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 blah. Let's just throw in Andrew Tate here. In 2021, the CCDH identified 500 groups on social media linked to, wait a minute, what the fuck is this? Global game? They can't even fucking read or write. It's too simple fucking. Isn't it funny that this has the first? Oh my god, it's just completely insane. They can't even fucking get that right. They can't get my name right, and they can't get game global right. They write global game. They're literally making mistakes in so many fucking places. It makes me genuinely believe that they are dumb, don't know what they're doing, or just using us to extend a political agenda. This is not right. This is completely fucking false. They can't even get the fucking names right. It's not global game. It's game global. How dumb of them to write it like this. It's 10 letters. Game has 4 letters. Very easy to write. My daughter is 5 years old. I'm pretty sure she can spell that herself. Global, 6 letters. Just like my entire name, it has 10 letters. Again, second time they couldn't even get 2 words with 10 letters in total correct. They couldn't even fucking get that right. In 2021, CCDH identified 500 groups on social media linked to Game Global, but they can't even fucking get that right, a network of POAs with more than 26,000 members globally. In these groups, members discuss how to get women into bed and spread misogynistic content. Well, this fucking website is spreading hate and false information. So how about that? False fucking, can't even fucking get that right. And then they go on and talk about incels. Like, what the fuck? I don't understand people's obsession with that shit. Blah, 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 blah. Let's just fucking group everyone here and call it toxic. Now, let's actually show what's really going on the website. Or actually, I better cover it up because it's gonna. Oh, yeah, that's okay. Great. Let's check the chat here. Yeah, you're right. There's Andrew Tate right there. Here we go. Share this tab. Game Glossary, which has been in progress since 2019. 2 entire years before the CCDH tried pushing out this fake news article. So let's just go through this. They said things like, you know what, let me, yeah, my apologies. My apologies. We put some ads on there recently. Yesterday. We have a list all the way down here. All the way down here. Fuck that. Toxic terminology. Disclaimer. These terms existed for many years before Game Global existed. Game Global did not create these terms and does not endorse them. It is our mission to eradicate toxic terminology and devise safer, legitimate, and more appropriate terms for the seduction community and every POA out there. Body count, for example, which has, that's about killing people. So that has nothing to do with anything. Experience and sexual partners is like the real kinds of words you should be using. Isolation, we do not tolerate people using words like isolation. Separating a woman from her friends in order to escalate the interaction. Terminology removed by being global from the seduction community. For being divisive, a PUA should not focus on taking a woman away from her friends, but rather having a one-on-one time. And so one-on-one is more suitable. Replacement, one-on-one. We're not using isolation. We're saying one-on-one. Lay report, field report, LMR. I did not create these. I did not create the term last-minute resistance. This existed years before I came along. When a girl prevents a man from escalating into sexual intercourse, such as when a girl stops your attempt to remove clothes, sounds really fucking dodgy when you put it like that, because it kind of is. Terminology removed for ignoring basic consent, and the term is problematic in the media for the PUA community itself. Replacement, cold feet, a normal fucking phrase. She got cold feet. She changed her mind, whatever. Target, a goal you're interested in. Terminology removed for being unnecessary and not regarding seeing people as human or women. This isn't Call of Duty. And by the way, where does this actually come from? It comes from the movie Top Gun. It's simply nerds that made this kind of terminology in the first place. And there's some outdated terms as well. So there's that. And this has been one of the many initiatives for years, even before articles, journalists, anti-hate groups started targeting us. So it reminds me, let me focus in on here. I'm a married man. I have a wife. I have a daughter. She's 5 years old. She'll be 6 this year. I have done more to reform the seduction community and the pickup artist community than anyone else in the universe has ever attempted. I have created a list of toxic terminology to discourage people from using. I have reformed the slang in the community. I have systematically pushed it out from the communities itself. On Telegram, we have a bot that is programmed to respond to certain trigger words and trigger phrases, such as last-minute resistance, telling them, don't use those phrases. Here's the alternative. Here's why it's bad. Look at the game glossary. Meanwhile, I send multiple emails and messages to Imran Ahmed and his anti-hate group, the CCDH, and I was ignored every single fucking time. It has been nearly 5 years, and not a single time has this ever been acknowledged. Not a single time have they ever actually responded. I remember specifically asking them, how can we reform the seduction community? Here are some things we have tried to do. Here are some things we have in place right now. Can you cooperate with us on reforming? They don't give a shit. They never fucking responded. They're not anti-hate. They're pro-agenda, pro-censorship, and they are a hate group. That's what I'm going to say, because they fucking ignored me for years. Not once did they ever acknowledge or respond to anything I sent them. And I was never malicious to them. Today is the first time I'm being slightly malicious, but I'm the kind of guy who can say to the CCDH, to the CEO, Imran Ahmed, let's have a conversation about this. Let's interview each other. Let's find a solution. They don't fucking care. They have a political agenda as far as it seems. It's they don't give a shit about women. They say, oh, rape is happening. They say toxic manosphere. They say all these bad negative things. What was the troll saying? Like yearning for the caveman days. They're using false information. They can't even get basic words and names right. They can't even get the organization name right. It's ridiculous. They call themselves researchers. And for years, that has been on their website and they still haven't fucking corrected it. Never received a single fucking apology. But anyway, like when this happened to me, I was in fucking shock because I couldn't believe that they would literally lie about me and the organization and the things I do. Nobody is doing more than I am doing for the positive reformation of the community. I just show you the game glossary. That's one of various things. I can't even remember off the top of my head some of the other things that I have attempted to do. But I'll give you another example. I sent them emails asking for their advice, mentorship, any suggestions they have. They never fucking responded. So they never formally contacted me. They never responded to me. They just decided to hit me with fucking article a few years ago and give no chance to actually they take no interest in women or improving the seduction community. They just want to hate on you and make Wikipedia pages, take down your fucking subreddits, take down your Facebook content, and was everyone take down stuff from Google? It's cancel culture. Cancel culture is cancer. And I live with fucking cancer. My wife has a terminal fucking illness. You can't say that we are fucking hateful. We are teaching men how to have better dating lives. We're teaching men how to have better relationships. You can't even respond to a fucking email. Like, that is a problem. Oh yeah, here's another thing. Let's show some other stuff we have on the website, for example. More things that we are doing, way more helpful than the CCDH ever has been. So let me remember the page. Report a scam in the seduction industry. The seduction industry is unregulated, with many people claiming to be coaches or experts without any specific qualifications. This has led to sketchy marketing tactics whereby expertise or qualifications are arbitrary or even made up. Some even measuring their coaching legitimacy based on the number of women they have had sex with, or purchasing fake followers on Instagram and fake subscribers on YouTube. You guys know who we're fucking talking about with that. On this page, you can report a scammer operating in the seduction industry. This can help us become aware of illegitimate coaches, preventing others from also being scammed. Report a scammer. There's the button. It takes you to a form. You can report that shit. There is another one somewhere. So if I remember the URL, it's how to filming you. Yeah. Okay. Shit, I forgot already. Science. Okay. I keep fucking forgetting. There we go. Goddamn ants. It's my fault. I fucking put that on there yesterday just to test it. Science. I think it's this one at least. How good is that? I remembered the entire URL. That's how much I value accuracy, and these guys can't even get fucking names right. Okay, signs a pickup artist is filming you for infield footage. There's James Tusk, someone who I have attempted to expose before several years ago. A woman took to Reddit recently, having been approached 11 times in one day by spam approach day gamers in Warsaw, Poland. This has raised concerns about the possibility of women being filmed for infield footage. Blah, 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 blah. Long story short, I basically give a guide here on how to know if you're a woman, how to know if you're secretly being filmed for infield footage. There's a lot of information here, more information probably than that CCDH page I showed a few minutes ago. Here's additional context. I'm no POA, but I sure have been misunderstood over the years and targeted by the media, which is why I'm making this fucking video, for my associations with the community. Here are the facts. I already mentioned this. I began taking over the industry, the community side of it, in 2018 and 2019, believing that only someone competent could truly improve it. And who better than someone who actually has a wife and a daughter? I actively discourage the spam approach form of day game. I have introduced many initiatives to the pickup artist community over the years that attempt to reform it. The game glossary, which we already looked at. The report page, which we already looked at. Discouragement of pseudonyms and enforcement of legal names, particularly for collaborators and partners. Out of my own free will, I have requested multiple police forces in multiple countries to investigate individuals who have harassed others in the community. And for example, an arrest was made in England in 2020. A serial harasser with extreme levels of autism made hundreds of accounts just to spam men and women, including me, disgusting messages and videos. Like, I don't even want to describe it. It's just fucking horrific. He was not a POA, but merely a mentally disturbed person who would seek online communities, regardless of what they were. I have campaigned against toxic figures in the industry. YouTube took down multiple YouTube channels run by a toxic figure in the pickup artist industry. There's another example. I welcome any reader, man or woman, to contact me in order to help push any initiatives or ideas to improve or detoxify the dating and relationship advice industry. The vast majority of men in the pickup artist community are genuine guys who just want to learn how to improve their love life. It is a shame that a small minority ruin it for everyone else. So there's that. I have taken to Reddit to find people who want to help with this shit. I have written to Imran Ahmed, CEO of the CCDH. I have written to the CCDH. They have never nobody on Reddit, nobody in the CCDH, including Imran Ahmed and the journalists involved, have ever contacted me or responded about this. They don't care, but I do. I'm literally doing things. I have multiple pages on the website that have been there for years, but these guys just simply don't give a shit. They just have some weird fucking agenda. Crazy fucking shit. But let's look at some other things here. Let's see. Let's share this tab. Oh, look, it's from the Times in England. How Imran Ahmed's fight against digital hate crossed Trump allies. So what do we have in here? Elon Musk launched a tirade about Imran Ahmed, a former Labour advisor, a major political party in England, who now heads the Center for Countering Digital Hate. Ironic, which aims to disrupt the spread of digital hate and misinformation, which is very ironic considering the misinformation that they have. Here's the funny part. As hateful as it seems, I think it's kind of justified to some extent. The billionaire branded Ahmed a rat, called the CCDH, which has charitable status in the US, evil, and did what he does best, sue. Even Elon Musk is calling out these fucking guys. It is completely crazy. Let's see. Ahmed said in 2023, CCDH holds up a mirror to social media platforms and asks them to consider whether or not they like the reflection they see in it. That's what I'm doing today with you. We are proud of our record of investigating and raising the alarm, cancel culture with fake news and misinformation, using hate to deplatform people. Musk didn't like what he saw in a mirror. Blah, 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 blah. I don't take this guy's words seriously. On Tuesday, Marco Rubio, the U.S. Secretary of State, announced that Ahmed was one of 5 radical activists from Europe who would be banned from the country for stifling free speech. Today, we are exercising that right in a respectful way. Now, there are some passionate moments I am having here, but this is I've been dealing with this for 5 years by myself now. The CCDH has published lists such as the Disinformation Dozen, does include themselves. Let's see what else is here. Like here's another thing. I kind of wanted to show this. I found this kind of funny. Here's their research. This is how terrible their fucking research is. You see here 89 fucking comments. Members' comments about women, including Asian women, Black women, Muslim women, lesbians, trans women, which aren't women, feminists, and fat women. It's kind of funny they write it like that. So they highlight that an Asian guy wrote that Asian women are the kinkiest girls once you get them in bed. And most Asians, let me actually fucking get that right there. Most Asians love white men. This guy, we know who he is. He's one of the guys who was banned, but we knew what ethnicity he was. This guy was East Asian. East Asian guy talking about Asians. And apparently that's fucking racist. This is their research. They're accusing an Asian guy of being racist towards Asians. According to an Asian man, he was banned, but you didn't report on that. These users were banned, but you didn't report on that. Misleading, false. There are probably so many other things I can go through here, but let's catch up with some things here. So let's see the comments here. Greetings from Portugal. Didn't know your wife was sick. It was like it came up in the end of 2022, start of 2023, brain surgery in December 2022, right after Christmas. It was the craziest fucking time. 8 hours of awake brain surgery. Notice how I'm not using any hate here. I'm just talking fucking normally. And then 2023, she came home, January. They came back with the laboratory results, and it was cancerous once they analyzed the things they were taking out from the brain. Yeah, so that was a really crazy time for us. But it's always an ongoing thing. It doesn't go away. There's no cure. She's having proper health care. Alrighty. Yeah, let's see what else we got here. So let's share this. So this is the Instagram profile of Imran Ahmed. Doesn't have many followers, not much on his profile. But this post came 4 days ago. I sent him a message before this post was uploaded. So he is using
I don't
Instagram,
want to fight this.
And that was 7 days ago. So he is using it. I sent him a message there. No response. No fucking response. Founder of Counter Hate, CCDH, which is
I keep asking.
Also active. You'll never get a response from these guys. But they claim to be protecting human rights and tracking the spread of online harms. But personally, I think they did some online harm to me because they can't even get my fucking name right. They were using false information. You guys know the deal. We already talked about that kind of thing. There's also, how funny it is that they also have their own Wikipedia page. I'm just curious. Let's look at the history. When was it made in the first place? Let's go back as far as possible. Let's see here. 2017? 2020. Yeah, I do know for a fact that some people in organizations, you're not supposed to do it according to Wikipedia. Make a page or pay someone to make a Wikipedia page. As long as there's enough article coverage, like you will get a Wikipedia page if someone tries to make it. And we got one in the past, which was then soon deleted before I even knew it was even a thing. But they are involved in so many fucking articles, so of course they're gonna have. Look at how many fucking sources there are here. 72 references. But that's not the part I wanted to show. History. Paul Holden, in his book The Fraud, stated that CCDH and its sister organization were incubated using resources from the organization Labor Together, so left-wing political organization in England. He stated that Labor Together was a means of organizing to replace Jeremy Corbyn, a left-wing politician, as leader of the Labour Party, left-wing popular party, I guess. With a politician to his right. So this guy is spilling some beans in his book called The Fraud, which is very interesting, that these people are involved in playing politics, replacing political leaders. Now, I used to be involved in politics. I fucking hate talking about that kind of shit. But like, this just seems really unavoidable at this point. They have targeted some right-wing media outlets, but they focused on left-wing media outlets, which were supportive of this particular politician, particularly whatever one that is. Now, here's a newer one. December 2025, the U.S. State Department imposed a visa sanction on CCDH CEO Imran Ahmed for leading what U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio called organized efforts to coerce American platforms to censor, demonetize, and suppress American viewpoints they oppose. Again, fucking email them. Good luck getting a response. Funding. Who the fuck is funding these guys? The BBC noted some of the CCDH's funders as the Pairs, whatever foundation. Joseph Roundtree Charitable Trust, Barrow Cadbury Trust, which I thought that was interesting because that's Cadbury. That's a chocolate fucking thing. What the fuck is this? Crazy politics here. Let's see what else there is. Yeah, very strange. So I think it's probably time to go through this video. I have not seen it. Now you see here, it looks like I have because I opened the link. I saw so many people commenting with links to this video. That's why it looks like I previewed it before. I immediately closed it because it's going to be my first time actually watching this. I don't know what this guy is really like or what he really sounds like. I don't know what's going to go on in here, but I know who this guy is. I don't know him personally, but I know he's a Russian guy who lives in England, and he says some really interesting things. So I think this is going to be really fucking entertaining. But let me just make sure I have gone through everything I wanted to so far. Yeah, they couldn't even get game global right, so there was that. Couldn't get my name right. We're going to react to this video. And there we go. I think that's pretty much everything. So let's jump in with this. I'm just going to quickly check these other tabs here. Yeah, that's everything. Right. Let's do it.
You know, your sort of thing of, well, I'm willing to tolerate the normalization of...
I'm going to turn down the quality first, so it's smoother. And can you guys confirm that the sound is okay with this video? Let's see. Get some comments here. Let's go through this first. Nice. There's a guy called Konstantin Kisin that obliterated Imran Ahmed in a debate on Triggernometry. Yeah, I said we're gonna react to this right now. At the very start of the video, I had it on here, but we're gonna go through this right now. It's the first time I'm seeing this. You're just proving my point. I literally saw dozens of people posting links to this fucking video and referencing this video on Reddit, on Facebook, on Instagram. When I was looking around in the past few days, we have to fucking watch this. Everyone's telling me to fucking watch this. Imran is the type of person that believes in free speech as long as your opinion is the same as his. Bullseye, it's that one. There we go. Yeah, you're yet another person who's telling us to watch this video. He's saying destroys Imran's arguments on hate speech. Yeah. Lag should be a bit better, but let's go. It's a long video. I'm pretty much going to be here watching all of it.
You know, your sort of thing of, well, I'm willing to tolerate the normalization of anti-Semitism because some people were banned for saying that men can't be women.
Imran,
I disagree with you on that.
You can't disagree with something I didn't say. Should you be able to call for an armed revolution on social media?
Well, do you think they should?
Why is he fucking shrugging? That's weird.
If we were living in the social media age in 1776, this country never would have been created.
In what way is Donald
Well, he was
Trump?
banned from all the social media platforms.
Were you worried about his ability to get his message out?
Well, his ability to get his message out was definitely reduced significantly.
Let me just check with you guys. Is it too loud, too quiet? Can you just confirm that sound is coming through very nicely? Too loud, too quiet, whatever.
As you said yourself, when you ban people from social media, you said it yourself, they lose reach, right?
But it's sad to me that you can't define that you can't see hate speech normally.
Hold on a second. You're misrepresenting what I'm saying.
Again, rewind and just listen.
Good. I hope people do that because they'll see that you're misrepresenting what I'm saying.
For the main part, it's fucking obvious. I tell you what, you are being disrespectful to the people who do receive hate speech.
Like me.
I warn you that most of your...
Like me. I was about to say the same thing too. Man, like me. This fucking guy targeted me.
Listeners will think themselves, actually, Konstantin's being a bit of a dickhead right now.
And calling me a dickhead might be considered hate speech.
No, it's not hate speech. It's just good observation.
Imran, welcome to Triggernometry. Great to have you on. You are the founder and CEO of the Center for Countering Digital Hate, which is an organization that has, some people love it. It's like Marmite. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Some people think it's very important. Other people like Elon Musk are suing you. So we want to get into all of that. First of all, tell us a little bit about your background. What made you want to do that? How did you even get to starting it?
Sure. So the genesis of CCDH was in 2015, 2016. I was a political advisor to the Right Honourable Hilary Benn MP, who at the time was the Shadow Foreign Secretary. And of course, it was that time when Jeremy Corbyn had taken over the Labour Party. So in the winter of 2015, there was a decision taken by Parliament as to whether or not to join the United States and its allies in military action against the Islamic State in Syria. Jeremy opposed that decision. Hillary supported it. I remember being in the office with him, talking about it, the reasons why, what really motivated him, what really motivated me, and I come from a Muslim background myself, was reading and seeing the intelligence reports and the reporting by brave journalists about the murder of Yazidi women who were too old to rape in Mount Sinjar. And Hillary gave what was, by all accounts, a highly acclaimed speech. It led to that standing ovation famously in Parliament, which is quite unusual for those viewers that don't know how Parliament works. You're not allowed to clap, really. And the next day we received a mountain of abusive anti-Semitic comments saying, why are you fighting the Jews' war for them? Which was bizarre, because what did it have to do with Jews? This was actually a war of Muslims killing Muslims. And, a ton of abuse and phone calls and everything else. And it seemed coordinated. In fact, we knew it was coordinated, and we could find the spaces where people were coordinating the very specific ideas that they were promulgating on Facebook groups and other spaces. A few months later, like a piece of chattel, I was traded to Alan Johnson for, that's what when you're an advisor, you are basically, chattel. I was given to Alan Johnson. He liked the look of me. He asked me to be powdered and brought to his office to be his advisor for the referendum campaign, because of course, Jeremy didn't want to lead that. And Alan stepped up. And during that campaign, we saw a really high prevalence of hate, of conspiracy theories. There was stuff about election denial. There was people saying that if you voted in pencil to remain, to leave, that the election agents have been told to rub that out and put remain in pen. And so when people were walking into the election booths, they were literally waving their pens at people. You can't rub out my vote, mate. But also there were much more pernicious lies being spread on social media platforms, including the lie that the EU was trying to bring in Muslims and black people to rape 14-year-old girls and destroy the white race. It's a variant of the Great Replacement theory, which we know has led to the massive loss of life in Christchurch of Muslims, in Pittsburgh of Jewish people. And then, of course, there was the assassination of Joe. And
so that's Joe Cox.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Cox was a 35-year-old mother of two who represented the constituency of Batley and Spen. And she was I say the words every time, and I say them because it's important to remember just how inhuman the loss of her life was. She was shot, stabbed, and beaten to death on the streets of her constituency by a man who believed these conspiracy theories and lies and had imbibed for years and years the lies that underpin hate. And he thought it was right to take the life of a young woman, and did. And at that point, I just thought, something is wrong. Something's profoundly wrong with our politics. Now, when he was killing her, it was reported at the time that he shouted, "Britain first, death to traitors." Death to traitors was something that these groups like, the people who were promulgating the Great Replacement theory, they were saying that these people are traitors to Britain. But Britain first really struck a chord with me, because about a year and a half earlier, I'd been told that Britain First was the first political movement to achieve 1 million likes on Facebook in the UK. When that happened, my response was, who gives a shit? They've got 1 million clicks. We've got 500,000 members.
Mm-hmm.
They've just got clicktivists. They're nothing. And I was wrong. And what really came to me in that moment was the realization that conventional institutions like politics, like journalism, like the government, had not realized that the primary locus of information exchange in 2016, the primary locus of where we set our social mores, our norms of attitude and behavior, where we negotiate our values, even where we negotiate the corpus of information that we call facts, had shifted to digital spaces. And they work to different mathematics than the normal world. The way that amplification works, the way that 50 people can create 5,000 notifications in 10 seconds and create social proof from nowhere, even though they are fringe and, a disproportionate
Social proof, keyword.
Small number of voices. And I wanted to understand better how bad actors were weaponizing those spaces. So I spent 2 years working on that. I quit my job. I didn't get paid. I went and worked with the platforms. I said to them, look, guys, I'm finding all this stuff. And they were saying to me, brilliant, come on in, tell us everything you've learned. And it took me 2 years to work out that the entire policy-making process and stakeholder engagement process at the social media companies was an elaborate gaslighting scheme. And at that point,
what does that mean exactly?
it just meant that it was never going to go anywhere. Like they were pretending to care and pretending to listen. The actual moment where it happened, where I realized it was an elaborate gaslighting scheme, is when I went into Meta with my friend Rachel Riley, and we brought in a dossier of extreme anti-Semitism, which we'd found in a group that was named, it was called Truthers Against Zionism or something. And we took it in, we showed them, and they said, whoa, this is amazing. We've never seen this before. This is very serious. This is criminal level stuff. We're going to have to, spend some time studying it. We can't take it down because otherwise we'll lose all this vital data. The thing is, I knew that they'd seen that group 6 months earlier, the very same executive, because Hope Not Hate had taken it into them, and a year earlier because the Community Security Trust, the primary body that defends the physical security of Jews in Britain, had taken it into them. So they were lying to me. And at that point, I just thought, well, this is going nowhere. So it's time for us to change tactics. And that's why we launched CCDH. We launched CCDH to create transparency, to create public awareness of the ways in which those platforms were being weaponized by bad actors, but also crucial.
Like this guy, weaponizing the Sunday Times and his own organization to attack us.
Actually, that the platforms were in on it too, that they were unwilling to do anything about it because, frankly, it was making them money. And at that time, we were developing our economic analysis and economic theory of why hate and disinformation have become so profitable for both the producers and the disseminators of the hate and lies.
And why is it that they've become so profitable?
Because they grab attention. And it's as simple as that. Look,
which he is fucking guilty of himself. Oh my God. Hypocrisy already. We're only a few minutes in.
A social media company is just a billboard company. That's all it is. It's nothing more sophisticated than that. 98% of the revenues of Meta come from advertising. And, Mark Zuckerberg is younger than me. He may be your ages. He's worth $100 billion.
That's a depressing thought.
Yeah.
He's built an amazing business model, and the business model is amazingly clever. It's really parasitic. It doesn't actually produce anything. Everyone else produces the content. They just have an algorithm that reorders it. Because, of course, you can't see what 5.5 billion people are saying, right? Because that would just be nuts to have all those voices in your head. So instead, what they do is they reorder it, and they reorder it based on engagement. And engagement really is driven by, what gets more engagement is more violative content. In fact, Mark Zuckerberg himself once presented a chart, a graph, that showed on the x-axis was how violative the content was, essentially how close to breaking the rules. And the y-axis is engagement. And what you get is, as it's as it's innocuous content, very low engagement, stays flat, stays flat, stays flat. And then you get to violative and it shoots up with an exponential curve. So they know that basically the most contentious content, the most near violative content, the stuff that's breaking the rules, actually gets the most engagement. Now, if you amplify that, if you amplify based on engagement, you are therefore amplifying the most violative content. So you've got a mechanism that constantly is shifting the norms of our society because of frequency bias, because of how frequently we're seeing this content towards the most violative content. And that has a net effect on societies over time. It changes them. It makes them more fearful, more angry seeming, more brittle, more polarized, more hateful. And it undermines the values that underpin democracy. And for me, CCDH is one of the first of the breed of organizations that's looking at the macro level impact of these organizations, these companies, and the way they reorder our information ecosystem and saying, well, crumbs, what does that mean for democracy? What does it mean for our ability to just rob on as people and, have a happy, cohesive society? Because that's a good thing, we think.
Yeah, look, I agree with what you're saying. I guess my point is, who determines what is extremist content? Because let's go back to...
I didn't say extremist content. I said violative.
Violative.
This is their own definition. So, of course, when you join any platform, you sign up to their community standards, right?
Right.
So, they have community standards that say you can't promulgate hate, you can't promulgate disinformation, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. And so they have made the definitions. In fact, with, for example, Facebook, there's been discussions over time about whether or not Holocaust denial should be violative on their platform. And they've decided over time, I remember 5 years ago speaking to a very senior executive at Facebook, and he was saying, absolutely never will we make this banned on our platform, because unless you ban it in the real world, we can't ban it on our platform. Now, that's not true. They have an absolute First Amendment right in the US to decide what's on their platform and what's not. But they made...
Let's see the comments here. I'm curious, because there's so many people hating on him from the comments I've seen before. I haven't looked at the comment section here. This is my first time watching this video, but I'm just curious, the kinds of things being said. You can tell he isn't used to speak with people outside his own echo chamber. So basically, he is mad they lost control of Twitter. He's being banned from the USA for hate speech. 1 minute in, this guy is utterly insufferable. Oof. It's shockingly ironic how he advocates against online hate, yet is the epitome of all the worst qualities of online trolls: condescending, sarcastic, resorting to insults, inability to understand anything not in line with his own opinions, arrogant and smug. Well, let's keep this going. I'm really curious, where it gets particularly crazy.
The choice over time to actually say, well, no, we've changed our minds, we're going to ban it. And so they decide what's violative on their platform. And of course, what defines for them what's violative is what advertisers will tolerate. And that is the crucial point, of course, is that advertisers are the one moral voice in there going, not really sure if we want to place adverts on a stream of Nazi videos.
So it's the advertisers essentially who are in control, is what you're saying, because it's the advertisers that hold the purse strings.
Well, they have a considerable voice in it, but the control is held by, it's a negotiated thing, right? That's how civil society works. I have my voice. I say it's disgusting to be giving a megaphone to hate and extremism and disinformation. They have their voice saying, well, people should have the right to speak out. The advertisers have their voice. Governments have their voice. You know, that's the way that civil society works. And generally speaking, when platforms have gone off the rails, you've seen those elements of society work together to try and change things.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, when Elon Musk took over X, now, you know, Elon Musk, brilliant engineer, I certainly a very, very good CEO. You know, I admire the way that he runs his companies, the way that he engineers processes in a really intelligent way, and ekes out every bit of efficiency and value he can from them. But when he took over that platform, he said it's a free speech zone, and he hadn't thought about it. He said it's a free speech zone. You say whatever you want. He let tens of thousands of people who've been banned from the platform under the previous regime, which is an incredibly lax regime, frankly.
I would push back on that. I know plenty of people who got banned off Twitter, as it was then known, for saying things like men can't be women and women can't be men. That to me doesn't seem lax. That is a direct infringement of freedom of speech.
I'm sure you can find a couple of people who
There's a lot of
people.
The bulk
and Imran, just to make the point as well, there were a lot of people who were shadow banned as well because of.
But let Imran also make his point first.
I don't know how shadow banning works, and it's one of those things that I'm not quite sure if it's just a made up thing or if it's a real thing. But I mean,
it is real.
So with banning the people, there are lots of people who are undoubtedly hate actors, spreading hatred against black people, LGBTQ plus people, blah, blah, etc., etc. And so when you let them back on the platform, we did a study to have a look at what happened on the platform when he came in and signaled that that what would be acceptable on his platform is hate content. There was a 202% increase in the use of the N-word on Twitter in the week after he took over, compared to the daily rate for the year prior. Now, what that showed was that people had come on there and thought, well, I can get away with this. He'd actually shifted the social mores, the norms of attitude and behavior. Now, we did a piece of research that showed that to be true. We quantified it. It went on the front page of the New York Times, and advertisers flooded out of his platform. He says it cost him $100 million in advertising loss, and he sued us for it. He sued us saying that we had the temerity to, he didn't actually sue us for defamation because we were right. What he sued us for was doing the research itself and then publishing the research. And that case was dismissed by the courts as a
research, which when they did their research on us, like they were literally accusing Asian men of being racist against Asians. And this guy's talking about the N-word, but his research is so fucking shit. They can't even tell the difference between an Asian and the racism. He is Asian, but what the fuck is he talking about?
Violation of our First Amendment rights. And he has to, in fact, in America, the way that civil litigation works is if you sue someone and you lose, they still have to pay their own costs. In this instance, the court actually awarded us costs as well. So it's an extraordinary judgment. Now, he is appealing it, which I'm very much looking forward to, because we raised a lot of money by saying that Elon Musk was suing us. And he'll have to pay our costs if he loses the appeal too.
Look at how proud he was when he said that. What was that, 16? Bring it back.
Very much looking forward to.
Look at how proud he was saying that.
Because we raised a lot of money by saying that Elon Musk was suing.
Look at how proud he is. There's something weird about this guy.
Us, and he'll have to pay our costs if he loses the appeal too. But that just goes to show you that these free speech absolutists like Elon Musk actually are very thin-skinned when it comes to us holding up a mirror to them. We weren't even criticizing. We simply held up a mirror. Advertisers took the action that they did because, of course, they absolutely have the right to say that we don't want our brands appearing next to the N-word. or, you know, abuse of women or abuse of gay people or abuse of Jewish people or whoever else. And so that's the way that this system works.
Well, here's fuck systems, first of all, but here's the crazy part about the N-word. Either everyone should be able to say it or nobody should be able to say it. The social structure and the what do you call it? The agreement on how to treat like who is justified saying the N-word and who is not justified saying the N-word, it's racist. Either everyone says it or nobody says it. Personally, I would just prefer that nobody fucking says it. I loved watching Coach Carter, great fucking movie with Samuel L. Jackson, and he discouraged his students from using the N-word. Samuel L. Jackson was the actor. It's based on a true story, but I personally believe, you know, if you're just like Morgan Freeman said, if you want to stop racism, stop talking about it. Like the fact that the N-word is exclusive for some and not for others, I would personally not want to fucking say it. Like if everyone was allowed to say it, I'm sure everyone would go fucking crazy or whatever. But personally, I just think it's better to not use these kinds of words if everyone's so fucking offended by it. Just, humans are humans, whatever. But we're not here for that.
Now, the problem is that, of course, what's become more difficult for this system, which is not self-regulating, but is systemically regulating, is that the platforms have been shutting down the primary means by which we're able to create checks and balances on them, and that's transparency. So whether it...
Speaking of transparency, I actually wanted to show, I'm going to quickly divert this to another thing. Let's stop that for a moment. And I want to quickly share this because I forgot to share this. Give me a moment here. Wow, it's being slow for a minute. Here we go. Okay, let's share this. What fucking show the tab? That's so weird. Okay, we'll just do this. Right. I'm gonna show two quick videos of Denzel Washington talking the most sensible philosophy in the fucking universe. Denzel Washington, legendary fucking actor, but this guy should be the president of the fucking universe. He knows what he's saying. But like, here's my point. Like, this Imran Ahmed guy is talking about all this crap. Here's what Denzel Washington has to say.
So what is the long-term effect of too much information? The polarization of the electorate? A meaner spiritedness?
And false information as well, because the whole fake news thing.
Pick one. It's not just one. That's the flavor of the day. Every day is something else. People have to understand, are you using your device or is your device using you? Can you put it down? Can you turn it off?
You're talking about literally the places people get their information from.
I don't care what information. Pick one. Phone, television. You know, it used to be news. Now it's opinion news. Oh, glasses. We have 3 experts on the right, 3 on the left. Let's discuss. Ooh, light bulbs. We have 3 experts on the right. That's not news. That's opinion news. Well, over and over and over. Cycle. What is the long-term effect of too much information? If you're sitting there and you're thinking it's the gospel, what I'm saying to people is, to all of us, I'm not knocking the phone. What I'm saying is we have to understand, we have to at least ask ourselves, around the world, you here in England, wherever you are, what is it doing to us?
So true.
Denzel Washington. He is really down on the press. If you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you do read it, you're misinformed.
So what do you do?
That's a great question. What is the long-term effect of too much information? One of the effects is the need to be first, not even to be true anymore. So what a responsibility you all have to tell the truth, not just to be first, but to tell the truth. We live in a society now where it's just first. Who cares? Get it out there. We don't care who it hurts. We don't care who we destroy. We don't care if it's true. Just say it, sell it. Anything you practice, you'll get good at, including BS.
With that analyzed, Joe Concha, media reporter for The Hill. He's absolutely right, 100% right. But he gets treated well by the press. Denzel Washington.
Denzel Washington, absolutely.
He one of the actors that's revered by the mainstream media. I wonder what set him off. I wonder what he's so angry about.
There was a fake news story, Bill, about Denzel Washington saying that he was now supporting Donald Trump.
Oh.
So he sees that and he has a sense of humor about it and no big deal. But I'm sure he feels the same way that many Americans do, Bill. And that is an AP survey that perfectly encapsulated what Denzel Washington said, which was one of the more poignant, precise, candid things that I've heard. 6% of the American public currently has high confidence in the media.
Right.
Think about that.
And those, they're all in drug rehab.
Something like that. Context, though. Watergate, that number was 72%.
Okay.
God damn, that no way. 72% during Watergate, 6% in the past few years. That's insane. Crazy. Let's continue reacting to this debate, I guess.
Is Facebook, for example, buying the only system that was able to do systemic analysis of their platform and then shutting it down, whether it's Twitter suing its critics or suing people that research it, whether it's TikTok, which in response to a study that we did showing that 13.2 billion people had viewed eating disorder content on their site using their own statistics. They shut down the area of their site that provided those statistics. We know that these platforms are incredibly unwilling to actually engage a free and open discourse about how they run their platforms and the impact on society.
Imran, I'm really glad we're having this conversation because, as we mentioned before we started, I think we're probably coming at this from different positions initially. But I think the one thing I've been saying for a long time is, first of all, no one who's in charge of a platform can be a free speech absolutist. It's not possible because once you're in charge of a system where there have to be some rules, then absolutism is impossible. Number one.
Sure.
Number two, I think my view is I think we will look back on this period of the emergence of social media in a similar way to the way that we looked at tobacco companies telling people that their product was good for them and they should be taking more of it and it doesn't cause any cancer. Hold on.
Yeah.
That was another perspective. But at the same time, and I think this is really important for us to discuss, I have definitely noticed since Elon Musk took over Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, that there's been more anti-Semitic content in my feed and in replies to me, etc. Right? Mm-hmm. And generally speaking, I have to say I'm pretty comfortable with that because what I've also noticed is that a lot of people who otherwise were not able to say things that they should have been able to say, in my opinion, were being censored, were being banned, etc. Those people are now back on the platform and able to say whatever it is. Men can't change sex, women can't, whatever it is, right? So I think what we're talking about is how do you negotiate the conversation between that tension that's always existed in human communication between safety and freedom. You are grinning at me in a way that tells me you don't agree with what I'm saying.
Oh, I just think it's remarkable that you're willing to tolerate the normalization of anti-Semitism to make a point about trans people.
I'm willing to tolerate people being hateful towards me.
Towards Jews, you just said.
Yes, I'm Jewish.
Right. In order to make a point about trans people.
Not in order to make a point about it. That's not what I said. In order that people do not get banned off the platform for expressing what is a reasonable opinion about biology or sex or anything of that kind.
But I'm not personally aware of anyone being banned from any platform.
Meghan Murphy. Meghan Murphy is a gender-critical feminist who was banned from Twitter.
What was she banned for?
For saying men can't change sex or women can't change sex.
Okay. I accept that.
And there are many other people like that.
And if that was not in breach of their own rules, and they have the right to set their rules, right? Every platform has the right to set its rules. If it was not in breach of their rules, that's the wrong decision to take. It's one of the reasons why, for example, so just to be really clear, I mean, I think you've come at this from a very weird perspective when it comes to CCDH. Like, we don't want to censor.
I'm not having a go at you.
No,
it's
okay.
I'm trying to explore the argument.
I'm just finishing my argument. So the problem is that we understand that people have I actually do think that people have a First Amendment right to say whatever the hell they want. I don't have a right to say whatever I want on your program. So if I started chanting swear words right now, presumably you wouldn't broadcast it. If I started chanting, well, we could give it a go if you'd like.
Go for it.
I'd rather not.
Okay.
I mean, I have a sort of somewhat of a reputation to uphold here. But you know, the point is that in any space, a platform can take decisions about what they accept and what they don't. The problem is that the rules are badly enforced.
Yes.
If enforced at all. And so here's our agenda. What we say is, when it comes to these platforms, and I agree with you, I think in 20 years' time, we'll look at them like, we looked at the way that tobacco companies lied about how they operated when people said that having seatbelts would be an impingement on my freedom as a human being. And of course, they are now de rigueur in all cars that come out. That if you look at the damage that these platforms can do, both systemically in terms of the normalization of hate and extremism, but also the most important work that we do, which is on children and the damage that's been done to their mental health. And we've done enormously important studies on things like eating disorder, self-harm content, and also the recommendation of steroid-like drugs and unachievable body images to young men. I think that we will look back on that and kind of think, how on earth did we expose our children to an unregulated psychological experiment that's led to a global shift in mental illness amongst young people? But I do think that if you come back to the way that these platforms operate, there's no transparency in how they take decisions on how they enforce their rules.
Agreed.
So the three components of transparency we want are algorithms. How do you choose which content wins and which content loses? Because that's what the algorithm is. It decides who wins and who loses. And we know that what they want to win is the most contentious content, the most egregiously harmful content, hate, disinformation. Second thing is, we want to have transparency on the advertising, so we understand how advertising vitiates the decision of what to present, how the advertising is presented within the system as well. Because of course, increasingly what you get is a system which tries to mask advertising as organic content. The third thing that we want transparency on, and I think this is the most important one, what are your rules? How do you enforce them? What rule did you apply to take this decision? And why did you come to that conclusion? Because anyone that's banned from a platform or have their post removed should be told, you broke this rule. They don't do that.
No, they don't.
No, I don't.
Which is what we were talking about, right?
And I think that's dumb as hell. So I think that, your sort of thing of, well, I'm willing to tolerate the normalization of anti-Semitism because some people were banned for saying that men can't be women.
Imran,
I disagree with you on that.
No, hold on.
I
you can't disagree with something I didn't say.
No, I disagree with you on men and women.
But that's fine, and we can talk about men and women if you like. But you just said that I said I'm willing to tolerate the normalization of anti-Semitism. That is not what I said.
What did he say?
What I said is there has been an increase in anti-Semitism. It's not like there wasn't anti-Semites on Twitter before, right? I have seen more of that type of thing on my feed. It's not normalization. I'm not saying it's normal.
What did he say after that?
What I didn't say is I want the normalization of anti-Semitism because I want people to be able to be bigots against trans people, which seems to be slightly what you're saying. What I said.
And I think if people go and rewind right now, they'll find that's exactly what you said. And look,
okay, well, let me finish.
Here's the point. You don't have to balance.
Imran, you got to let me finish.
You don't have to balance.
Imran, I let you talk.
They
got to let me talk.
Their rules intelligently.
There's no filibustering here. You're going to get plenty of time. You've got an hour more of our conversation. Let me finish my point. Let's actually discuss what you're saying and what I'm saying instead of these straw men that we make up.
Monetary metals provides a true alternative to saving and earning in fiat currency by making it possible
the relationship between the amount of freedom that we have on the one hand and the amount of safety that we have on the other hand. When we open up the range of things that people can do or say, we necessarily decrease the amount of safety. That's the relationship that those two things have. So what I'm saying to you is someone like me was not comfortable with the amount of censorship that we saw on Twitter in the past. That does not mean that I'm also not against showing kids eating disorder content. We just had psychologist Jonathan Haidt on the show to talk about the dangers of social media. We've had many people on the show to talk about that. So when it comes to kids, when it comes to genuinely hateful content where it's like people are being incited to commit violence, etc. But I don't want somebody to be censored from saying, you know, you're a Jew and therefore you support this cause or whatever, to me. And as a result, creating an environment in which people are really, really prevented from having debates about things like, you know, the trans issue, having debates around things like vaccine safety and efficacy, and having other conversations that really matter to our society. That's the point I'm putting to you.
And I agree with you. I think people should be able to have those debates. The question is whether or not these companies should be able to amplify particular voices to make them win or make them lose based on, you know, based on an algorithm which rewards only one thing, which is engagement. You know, the freedom of speech is not the freedom of reach. It's not anyone's God-given right to be given a megaphone, nor is it anyone's God-given right to be paid for that either. And with the way that platforms work, both at the monetization of this content and then the revenue sharing of that content, what you actually are incentivizing is things like people who are performatively offensive.
Agreed.
Yeah.
For the purposes of generating attention. You know, I think about the effort that you guys have put into putting this together, right? Both of you, you put in thought and care into selecting your guests. You're trying to have a debate, an actual extension of human
understanding. We're trying to have a conversation.
Extension of human understanding and knowledge, bringing two people together and creating something bigger than just the sum of our two opinions, trying to create insight, those flashes of things that really matter. That's admirable. That's not the game they're in. Don't for a second let Elon Musk persuade you that he's in the game of trying to extend human consciousness when it comes to Twitter. He's in the game of trying to make some money from advertising, and he's failed catastrophically at it because he just didn't peg that it wasn't just about the number of eyeballs. He thought, if I can optimize the number of eyeballs, I can make even more money. If I turn this into an ever-moving car crash, he thought, right, it's a billboard company. I know what. I'll have car crashes. I'll put billboards on them. Everyone will watch them. Bob's your uncle. Loads of money. It turns out people don't want to put adverts on car crashes. And that's what Twitter's become. It's become the equivalent of a billboard attached to a slowly unrolling, brutal car crash in which the rights of thousands, millions, billions of people, women, gay people, Jews, Muslims, black people, are constantly being diminished to amplify the voices of a small fringe of, frankly, lunatics.
So the thing that I get really quite uncomfortable with in these conversations is the term disinformation, because we know, for instance, when we look at the pandemic, what was classified as disinformation at one point then becomes either accepted or scientific consensus in a few years' time, particularly the issue of masks, for example, where it was proven that if you have a mask that is not an N95, it's a paper mask, it is of no use. Of no use whatsoever. So that is my issue, Imran. That's something that I have real problems with going, this is disinformation within certain reason, because you go, how do you know at this point?
So let's break this down into three types of disinformation, and then I'll tell you what CCDH focused on as an organization. So when I left school, I went to medical school. In 1996, I went to UCLMS. I did preclinical medicine there, the 2 years of theory, and then I quit before I did clinical because I hated it. While I was there, up the road was Andrew Wakefield writing the paper that said that MMR, the vaccine, the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, causes autism, which we know to be untrue based on fabricated data. And at the time, he was being paid by personal injury lawyers hoping to bring autism cases against vaccine companies on behalf of autistic parents. That paper caused real devastation, real damage, especially in the northwest of England where I come from. And kids were harmed immeasurably. Measles is still one of the biggest killers of children in the world today, still. And so I've had an interest in how lies are spread about vaccines for some time. when the pandemic kicked off, we saw 3 types of disinformation flowing. One was the stuff about whether it was China or a lab leak. Don't care. Personally, I don't care. And we did not ever classify that as disinformation or not.
Yeah.
It was just idle ramblings as far as I could see. And mainly sort of like people, you know how people do on Twitter where they start talking about geopolitics and they're not really talking about geopolitics. They're just talking about whether or not they think China's mean or not. All right. The second type was people saying, you know, asking about things like school closures, masks. That stuff all seemed like, well, there's people who are complaining about the decisions taken by government. I think in a moment like this, I know how difficult it is in government. I've worked in politics, and I think to myself, it's kind of shitty and mean on those politicians who are having to make decisions based on insufficient information at pace. And I thought that was, I thought some of it was unfair, that criticism, especially the sort of the with hindsight criticism of it.
Yeah,
it's a little bit unfair. Where we were really concerned, where all of CCDH's effort went in, was people who were fundamentally spreading untruths about vaccines or about the deadliness of COVID or about the intent of medics who were coming up with it. One of the biggest spreaders of disinformation about vaccines, for example, prior to the vaccine launching, were the left in the US, because they were all calling it Trump's vaccine. They said Trump's vaccine cannot be trusted. One of my favorite bookmarks on my thing is a press release that came out from the Trump administration decrying the Democrats for being vaccine deniers and anti-vaxxers, because they said that they had done everything they could. So the truth is that vaccine, you know, it was the disinformation. It was things like saying that the vaccine wouldn't work, and so therefore you should take nebulized hydrogen peroxide. Now that might, nebulized hydrogen peroxide is bleach. It's what you used to, I used to have blonde hair when I was 18. That's how I got my hair blonde. And nebulizing is, if you're an asthmatic or you've ever had a lung condition, you will know it. It's where you inhale particulates, so droplets. So they were saying inhale droplets of bleach to cure yourself. That's the #1 anti-vaxxer in America was suggesting that. A guy called Joe McCullough. Joe McCullough was working with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. very closely. Now, when we did a study showing that of that kind of disinformation, 12 people were behind it, and quite often they were profiting from that disinformation. So they were saying, don't trust the vaccine, nebulized hydrogen peroxide, and here you can buy it from my web shop. That was clear stuff. Those were snake oil salesmen, spivs, who were lying for personal profit. And that, I think, is quite different to idle, I think it's bollocks, speculation. I think it's meaningless. It's like worthless mental effort. And I know that some people like doing it about whether or not it came from a lab or whether or not it came from a wet market or whether or not, you know, blah, 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 blah.
May I interrupt you very briefly? Just on that point. And Francis, sorry, I'm interrupting your flow as well. I just think on that point, we ought to just take a moment to consider what we're saying here. COVID-19 killed more people than anything since World War II in terms of a single event. If it came from a lab in China, it's almost certainly came from a lab in China because they were doing gain-of-function research. This is you're messing around with viruses, including to make them more lethal, more viral, etc. You don't think we ought to know where this came from?
I'm pretty sure that that's going to be discovered through some of the best forensic pathologists, virologists, and intelligence sources in the world. It will not be come up with by Barry from the pub down the road on Twitter. I am absolutely certain they have no insight.
But that's not who was being censored.
So that's why I say it's not disinformation. It's just idle speculation.
I just think
on Twitter, on social media.
You saying you don't care about it is interesting to me because on YouTube there were Harvard scientists who were saying it and being censored.
I don't care what people say about it on social media. I think that the way that the process will work to derive the truth on that does not at any point involve a Twitter debate, a Twitter flame war between one side or another.
Do you not think that the silencing of certain discussions on social media has an impact of what is happening?
I don't think they should be silenced.
Oh, you don't?
You don't?
Of course not.
Yeah.
Okay. Why should people silence that discussion?
Yeah.
People can have... Look, sat in a pub and talked about nonsense before. I don't think people should silence you for talking nonsense. Even if I think it's nonsense, they might find.
Isn't it kind of ironic? Like, he doesn't want to silence people, but these guys tried to take down our subreddit, and they did. We got it back. They tried to take down Facebook posts, and they did. We got it back. One Facebook post was only taken down, but then that was reinstated. They tried to take things down from Google. They tried to put us up in a bad light on Wikipedia, and then that was taken down because Wikipedia noticed that whoever was making this negative Wikipedia page about us had their own hateful agenda. So at this point, this guy's definitely talking bullshit because he is responsible for what he is currently saying he is against. Insanity.
It important or interesting, and they might find it satisfying to be able to sort of point to a villain on it. That's none of my business. My business comes in when that impacts other people's fundamental human rights. In America, they always, some people make this kind of, Elon Musk always says, like, your most fundamental and first right is your right to free speech.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's the First Amendment to the Constitution, buddy. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness come above that in the Constitution. Life, the right to life. If your lies spread with intent, telling people not to take a vaccine that could save their lives in order to sell them some janky pill that you sell on your web store, that to me is an act of absolute moral evil. There's just no doubt in my mind about it. And I think that platforms that say that you can't spread health disinformation should enforce their rules and ensure that that snake oil salesmen, and there is a tradition of that in the US, should not be able to weaponize that moment of incredible anxiety for many people when they are vulnerable.
But do you know what, Imran? The same, look, and I'm in agreement with you. I think those people who are willfully doing that, and look, that's one thing. But your argument could be used against people, for instance, like the US government, who were pushing out vaccines and saying everybody needs to take the vaccine, when the data was showing that if you were a young man of a certain age, or a young person of a certain age, the risks of COVID were negligible. And actually, it was probably more dangerous to take the vaccine. They were saying to take, the AstraZeneca vaccine was completely safe. It has now been withdrawn because of blood clots. Do you see what I'm saying? What can be seen as disinformation at one point can be changed at another point.
Again, I mean, I make the point that I'm talking about the spreading of deliberate health. And you're talking to me about things which I think that, really, really exercise you, and I get that. I don't see what that's got to do with the work that we've done.
No,
and I think the very nuanced and careful way that we differentiated between disinformation and just discussion is really, really vital.
Yeah.
I think people can take a lesson from the way that CCDH did it, because actually we focused on the people who are profiting from the pandemic by spreading disinformation deliberately that would lead to the loss of life for millions of people. 200,000 people in America were calculated by Microsoft AI and Johns Hopkins University, professors that I know there very well, incredible specialists. 200,000 people died unnecessarily in the US because they failed to take a vaccine that would have saved their lives, that they were too late. Many of them died in ICUs in America, choking to death, begging for a vaccine that they had once thought would harm them, but in fact would have saved their lives. But it was too late for them to take it because they were already on the cusp of death. And they did go on to die. That to me is an atrocity that simply, if you think about 9/11, so one of the signal moments in my life, I was 20, it was the day before my 23rd birthday, 9/11. I used to work for Merrill Lynch. I used to work in banking. After I quit med school, I just wanted to go and make some money. And that was the first time I ever felt morally motivated to do something with my life beyond for myself. So I quit my job. I went to Cambridge. I studied politics. I worked in politics for 10 years after that, hoping to make sure that we didn't have a world in which these kinds of things happen again. that was off the back of 7,000 people being killed on 9/11. 200,000 died after COVID. And our perspective, you know.
Just to respond to this question, Ice, do you have the video or article where this Imran Ahmed guy claims that Game Global should be taken down and silenced? We already went through that. That was at the very start. We're doing a commentary on this strange interview right now. And after this, we're going to tie it up at the end. But yeah, there are maybe a few more little things to see after this. But yeah, he promoted. Let me just actually quickly show. I'll save it for after this. Another thing that I want to show.
We have done very, very little to clean up the fact that the way that those lies were spread was intermingled along legitimate debate, debate that people should be able to have about where it came from, gain of function research, whether or not masks are a good idea or not, whether or not the evidence supports whether or not kids should be off school, whether or not young people should be encouraged to take the vaccine. I think on balance, probably they should have been, because there is the risk of transmission to adults, and that can kill the adults, or certainly elderly people. And so, like on those, but when it comes to spreading lies deliberately, I think that we showed exactly how to have that, how to differentiate between the two.
Because the other problem with this is, and I'm finding out here for myself, like people go, well, look, they banned Alex Jones. They banned Alex Jones off every single platform. Has that reduced Alex Jones's reach? Alex Jones has a huge audience that he influences. The same with Andrew Tate. Okay, Elon brought him back to X. But apart from that, Andrew was banned off every single platform, and he has found a way in order to put his content out there. So I guess my question to you is this.
Yeah.
Does banning people off social media actually reduce their reach? Because the two examples that I've given you would say otherwise. This interview is brought to you by Mint Mobile.
Yeah, well, every empirical study that's ever been done shows that it works. Whether it's whether it's the U.S. government studying the deplatforming of ISIS or CCDH's own research, sometimes we have to do this research to go and check as to whether or not we're having an effect. And so we,
again, the research that I showed you, which had 38 pages, and I didn't show all 38 pages to you guys. I just showed a few parts. And there are maybe a few parts I want to go through after this, but their research, just to remind you guys again, they think Asians talking nicely about Asian women is racist. This is their fucking research. And the government of England is fucking funding these guys, or on Wikipedia, at least, it said, some certain organizations are funding these fucking guys, and their research is basically a bunch of screenshots taken from our Telegram groups, pasted into Google Docs, just accusing Asian men of being racist towards Asians because of talking positively about Asian women. What the fuck? Their research is garbage from what I have seen when they were targeting us.
Accidentally, we put out a report on who's the guy from Liverpool, David Icke.
Yeah,
a couple of 4 years ago, just sort of laying out what he says.
Yeah,
and how he was monetizing it. And the next day, Facebook and a few of the platforms banned him, and we looked at his reach, and his reach collapsed catastrophically. There's no way of them replicating it. Tate's a very interesting example. So Tate has really innovated a system whereby he's built a cadre of people who will go and post his content for him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's finding ways around it. It's quite smart. I mean, he's a very organized and intelligent man.
Yeah,
spreading hate against women, and some really, I think it's hateful against men too, because it's so desiccated his worldview of how men and women should interact. I'm married, and I got married later in life. I don't think I've ever understood how joyful it is to be in something that's more than the sum of its parts as much as a marriage is. And he's trying to steal that from every young man out there, because he's telling them the only way to be in a relationship is to dominate. It's a zero-sum game of domination versus submission. Go fuck yourself. The fuck is wrong with you? Why would you tell young...
I disagree with what he's saying here. I'm with Andrew Tate on this, because if you follow what this Imran Ahmed guy is saying and not try to maintain control, it's not about, oh, alpha, man, dominate. But seriously, when you're in a relationship, you have to be the fucking leader to some kind of extent. The problem with a lot of men in relationships is they get fucking lazy, and then the woman starts to dominate. And, there's this, I didn't make this phrase. There's this phrase that is being thrown around in society for fucking decades at least. And it's called, she wears the pants in the relationship. Now, I would love to have a kind of 50-50 relationship. And I have had those kinds of 50-50 relationships. And it can work if you both make it work. But at the same time, I have also experienced relationships where there has to be more leadership from me, because I realized I started to get lazy. And then that's, especially now, I really realize you really, as a man, need to lead your relationships. It's nothing to do about being a toxic masculinity man. It's all to do with human psychology, and most divorces are initiated by women. Men are simply getting lazy sometimes in relationships, and then women start doing random things in these relationships, which then put the man into worse positions. Like we just had last month when we did the 24-hour stream, a guy called in and he thought the game ended when you get into relationships. Game does not end when you get into relationships. This guy got lazy, and then his girlfriend or wife, who he has a child with, moved in her male personal trainer into their fucking house. A castle cannot have two kings. This guy has been suffering for months, and he was suspecting that his girlfriend or wife was cheating on him with this personal trainer who was basically homeless, that she moved into their home. He stopped leading the relationship, and now he's in a lot of fucking trouble, in a really awkward position. He has lost control of the relationship. When we talk about control, it's not a malicious thing. Like we could say Imran Ahmed is trying to control the narrative. We could say I'm trying to control the narrative with this YouTube video. Control is not a bad thing. Governments are governments because they control a landmass that has a population of humans on it. Control is not a bad thing. It's just that it's so convenient to label Andrew Tate and people like me as alpha male, toxic masculinity figures who just want control over things. If you don't have control over things, you will lose to someone who asserts their control over you. The entirety of human history has been a battle for control. This entire interview has been very political. Everything's about control to some extent. If we all just, let's all just fucking be, what's the name of the, forget the word. Let's all just be anarchists. That's the word. And nobody has control. Everyone has their own individualist social contracts. There's no way that can fucking work. I studied politics. I studied international relations. I studied anarchism. I studied communism. I studied capitalism. control comes down to everything, because if nobody controls anything, someone's going to start fucking controlling something. So there has to be control somewhere. This guy's saying a man shouldn't have control of his fucking relationships. That's the dumbest thing I have ever fucking heard.
Boys there. What a terrible thing to tell them. So yeah, I think he's a piece of shit. And I think that his voice has been diminished somewhat, but he has found ways around it. And of course, I find that vexing. I think that if he does break the rules, that he shouldn't be allowed on those platforms. And platforms should do their utmost to make sure that this guy who monetizes hatred is not rewarded for it. You know, I almost wouldn't care if the algorithms didn't amplify his stuff deliberately. We found that, for example, if you set up an account on TikTok as a 14-year-old boy, within 2.4 minutes, it was serving up Andrew Tate content.
Yeah. Wow.
That's a deliberate editorial decision by the algorithm and by the company to actually to advantage that discourse, to advantage his speech over other speech. So, yeah, I mean, I'm quite pleased that he was deplatformed. I think he has found ways around it. And I think platforms should be working harder to make sure that he can't profit from his nonsense.
Let me just make a point, I think, about where there is an element of us talking past each other, which reflects the broader debate on these issues, actually, I think, of us talking.
Sorry for swearing.
It's all right.
You're allowed to swear. We won't censor you on here.
Yeah.
I know, but my mum might be watching. I like my mum.
She turned off a long time ago.
No, she really does. She sends me little memes of like what I've been saying, and like little WhatsApp messages like
Tell
Imran
him to
Ahmed
listen better, because he
Yeah.
keeps interrupting. You didn't raise him well.
She knows that. You really do. Sorry, mum.
Imran. So the bit where I think people are talking past each other in this conversation, this debate more broadly, is this. You're making some very good points that we agree with, which is there are certain types of content that should not be on platforms. They should be banned. And at the same time, what we are bringing to your attention, I think, is that there were other types of content that you don't focus on at the CC, you don't focus on in your organization. You don't, right? But they were also being censored. They were being prevented from being talked about. And the concern of people like us is that sometimes when people are keen to make sure that the internet is, quote, as safe as possible, they go very far and they censor things that should never have been prevented from being discussed. A lot of that happened during the pandemic. A lot of things should have been banned during the pandemic from being spread around. I agree with you. But at the same time, a lot of things were prevented from being discussed. On cultural issues, there are people who are being prevented from expressing perfectly reasonable mainstream opinions that we should be able to talk about. And on it goes. So I think part of the reason we're having this disagreement is kind of where we are in society. You've got one group of people saying, there's all these terrible things on the internet, they should be banned. And actually, most people agree. And then there's also the other angle, which is we should be able to discuss most things in a sensible way. And this isn't specifically about the Center for Countering Digital Hate. We're having a more broad philosophical discussion here.
I do recognize some of the sort of the hysterical kind of like, you know, performative virtue signaling of those people who want to shut down voices. I see them with the deplatforming at universities and stuff like that.
And I fucking see him right in front of me on this video. Oh, not these two guys.
I do, you know.
This guy. I want to hear that again. 4824. Let's take it back there.
Some of the sort of the hysterical kind of like, you know, performative virtue signaling of those people who want to shut down voices. I see them with the deplatforming at universities and stuff like that. I do, you know.
He fucking tried to do that to us. What the fuck is he talking about? He is that virtual signaling guy using false information to silence people. Once again, they try to take away our fucking subreddit. And they did, and then we got it back very quickly. They tried to control the narrative and make a Wikipedia page about us negatively, which Wikipedia took down because they knew someone was playing a fucking censorship game of politics. They tried to take down Facebook posts. One was taken down, it got put back up again because Facebook knew, oh, it's just a meme. It's not fucking harmful. And man, like, let's fucking hear that again. I just can't fucking believe my ears right now.
hate.
Yeah.
We're having a more broad philosophical discussion here.
I do recognize some of the sort of the hysterical kind of like, you know, performative virtue signaling of those people who want to shut down voices. I see them with the deplatforming at universities and stuff like that. I do, you know.
I see him right in front of me. Virtue signaling, trying to censor and deplatform. What the fuck is he talking about? He literally tried to do that to us. On Reddit, on Facebook, on Google, on Wikipedia, on the fucking news, on Telegram. Maybe I'm missing one here, but those are the ones I remember off the top of my head. He's the CEO of the fucking organization. And he commented on the article. He has a responsibility to his own words. He's tied to the article. He's tied to what he is saying in the words that are coming out of his mouth or ass. Hypocrisy. Exactly. What the fuck is he saying?
I had the privilege of going to Cambridge and hearing voices from every part of the political spectrum in my education.
Every part of the political spectrum, but he's not even willing to answer your emails. My emails that I sent him, which we will go through again in more detail straight after this, because I specifically highlight, you can see my emails to him were not malicious or negative at all. I was asking for his honest cooperation, never fucking responded. Didn't respond on Instagram, didn't respond on email. Maybe I tried on Facebook 2 years ago. I can't remember, but definitely email, Instagram, never got a fucking thing back from this guy or his seemingly fake, hypocritical, anti-hate group organization. Insane.
I read everyone from the chief jurist of the Third Reich, you know, through to Marx when I was studying politics there.
So he's willing to look at some Nazi shit, but he's not willing to look at an email from me and actually respond to it when I ask things like, how can the seduction community become less toxic? I will literally show you the exact wordings of the emails I sent. He's willing to learn from the Nazis, but not willing to present his expertise, opinions, and honest advice in how we can move the seduction community into a more positive direction. This guy's a fucking fake.
And it all contributed to my education and understanding of the world around me. So I'm a great believer in free and open discourse. Let me square the circle for you.
Okay.
So you and I agree, or we agree, that there are some voices that are being silenced, which we think are unfair, arbitrary, you know, vindictive decision making. We think that there are some voices that should be, because they're clearly out with the rules of those platforms and definitely out with, you know, 99.9% of the norms of our society. But we want to have visibility of that. We want it to be, actually, what we're talking about is fairness. We're saying we want a fair system. The fair system is not going to be created in this discourse here. I think that we'll get closer to understanding what fairness is. Let me just proffer to you our solution as an organization. So this is what CCDH stands for.
Okay, he's going to talk about solutions now. We're going to get to solutions, which I requested of this guy, and he never fucking responded. 5 years. It has nearly been 5 years. I asked this guy for a solution. Let's fucking hear what he has to say.
CCDH's primary goals are to ensure that every country legislates what we call the STAR framework. So the STAR framework says that If you have transparency of the algorithms, the enforcement decisions, and the advertising, that allows for meaningful accountability in which you can ask them tough questions based on hard data and get real answers back from them. And you probably need some sort of body to do that accountability work. So whether it's Ofcom in the UK, the Digital Services Act implementation bodies in the European Union, or Elizabeth Warren and Lindsey Graham, two people from very different parts of the political spectrum, have an idea for an FCC for social media in the US. I think it's a grand idea if they can get the data that can actually allow them to meaningfully hold them accountable. And then where they create harms that actually do impinge on other people's fundamental rights in a tortious way that actually might harm them, for example, whether it's eating disorder content or it's content about, a hate content that leads to a terrorist attack, that they should be subject to the same laws as any other company or publisher, which is negligence law, defamation law. At the moment, these platforms under US law, under something called Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act 1996, are not subject to those laws. So we're saying that they should be subject to the laws. So transparency, accountability, meaningful accountability based on data with people who can ask them questions and get the answers back. And then where they actually cause harm, they should be subject to the same laws as everyone else, which is negligence law, which is defamation law, etc. In doing those things, what you actually then end up with is a safety by design culture. So a culture that thinks about not just about maximizing their revenues, but also about creating healthy spaces for discourse in which real discourse can happen. And by having that transparency, you ensure that they don't go too far either in the wrong direction. So you end up with actually good spaces in which real discussion can happen. I read the newspapers every day still. I read a lot. And it's not like newspapers can't feature bananas opinions that I would find repulsive, politically, personally. That's good.
Like his involvement with fake news.
That's healthy. If I hadn't read bonkers opinions, I wouldn't feel as empowered as I do to be able to reject them in the first place, or to give you a cultured and intelligent critique of them. So I do see the value of that discourse, but we don't want, by the way, the platform, we don't want governments to give you a list of things you can and can't say on those things. That's nowhere in the STAR framework. What the STAR framework says is, let's have more informed speech about how these platforms work so that we can have a healthier spaces for those discourse and have a healthier society to fulfill the original promise of social media, which was to create a truly global conversation in which humanity can actually extend its understanding and insight collectively, negotiate a better understanding of who we are, where we, and what's good and what isn't.
So, Imran, I guess one of the things that I wanted to ask in that, and look, I think everybody is in here is in favor of greater transparency for these social
100%.
media companies. Too many of their choices are opaque. You can't get any answers from them. And look, we're all in favor of that. I guess my question to you is how do you define harm? How do you measure harm in the people who are ingesting or being exposed to this content?
So the responsibility in the US, responsibility would be defined by negligence law. It's really, really simple. Every single company in America is subject to negligence law. If, for example, the coffee company that you very kindly brought me a cup of coffee, if the coffee had been negligently, it was poisonous, say, right? And it kills 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
If it could be shown that they'd been negligent in the way that they'd put together their systems, put together their quality assurance, then they could be held liable for it. If, for example, TikTok knew that within 2.6 minutes of setting up an account as a 13-year-old girl, it was serving them self-harm content. Within 8 minutes, eating disorder content every 39 seconds on average, and that when you open an account with a name like Susan, it gives you a lot of self-harm content. If you call it Susan Lose Weight, it gives you 12 times the amount of self-harm content because it knows that you're vulnerable, which is actually the results of a research study that CCDH did called Deadly by Design. And if that leads to a child taking their own life, and I have at this point met far, far too many parents who've lost their children that way. Ian Russell, the father of Molly Russell, the 14-year-old girl in England who took her own life, is on the board of CCDH. And, if at that point they knew about it, they did nothing about it, they can be held legally liable for it. That is where they could be held liable. Or, for example, if someone could show that a terrorist attack was plotted on their site This is another real case. This is a real case of Israelis who took one of the platforms to court because of the way that Hamas bombing had been planned on their Hamas attack had been planned on their site, operationalized on their site, fundraised on their site. They'd been able to proselytize their hatred on their site, and it led directly to someone being killed. At the moment, under US law, they can't be held liable. The problem that we have at the moment isn't that these companies aren't being held liable, it's that they've got specific get out of jail free cards saying they can't be held liable. And I don't understand why social media companies should not be subject to the same pressures that any other company are, which is that you have to abide by American negligence law. So who will decide it? The courts. What will they decide it based on? The entire corpus of decision-making in negligence law, which is a very well-established and extensive set of law that doesn't say that if one cup of coffee is poisonous, I can't sue them till they bleed. But if they do this on a systemic basis, because they just don't give a shit about the people that buy their stuff, then they can be held liable. That's how negligence law works. Why can't they be subject to that? Or product design law, which says that if you create a product that is designed to be harmful, that you can be held liable for it.
Well, I think that's what most sensible people would agree on, particularly those two examples that you gave. The serving up of harmful content for children, and the other example.
Hate.
And well, not hate, but the example you gave is terrorism, actually. There's a big difference between hate and terrorism. Let me give you an example which I think is much more difficult to adjudicate. Should you be able to call for an armed revolution on social media?
Do you think they should?
Well, wouldn't that cause harm?
Do you think you should?
Let me ask you this question. We can play the argument forward logically. Should you be able to call for
it depends on the context.
Well, but wouldn't an armed revolution?
Should an individual be able to? That's up to the platform. I don't know. I mean, should people be able to call for violence? Probably not. If you can't do it on the street, should you be able to do it on Twitter? Should Twitter enforce the same rules as you would have anywhere else? Probably.
The reason I asked the question,
the test that they will have to have is, do we think this is likely to lead to real harm in the real world?
Correct.
And therefore, are we willing to take the legal risk tolerance of allowing that?
So here's the reason I'm asking you the question. Undoubtedly, large numbers of people calling for an armed revolution would lead to real world harm. In other words, people will be killed. There will be a civil war potentially, or a revolution. And yet we're sitting here in Washington, D.C., in a place that was created by lots of people getting together and publishing pamphlets and speaking in the town square and saying, we want to resist the tyranny of King George and we're going to have our own country. And they fought a war in which many people died in order to get there. So if we were living in the social media age in 1776, this country never would have been created.
What do you mean?
What do you mean, what do I mean?
People would have still said it. Right?
No, they used the printing press to spread their message through pamphlets and all of this other stuff, which is exactly what social media is
and
now.
People will still use social media to do that. Look, in the event of a tyranny, of course, people use social media to expose the tyrant, to call for action, to call for things.
Like I'm doing right now with this guy, with this live stream on YouTube, calling out this guy, a tyrant of misinformation.
Things to happen. Now, the question is whether or not platforms should enable that, should amplify that, whether or not they should enforce their rules. That's up to the individual platforms themselves, but people will find a way to get the message out. We're talking about social media as though it is perfectly elided with the internet itself. People will be able to set up websites, they'll be able to use SMS, be able to use WhatsApp, be able to use Signal, be able to use social media to proselytize why the tyrant is a tyrant, to be able to give that. Now, the question of whether or not in that moment they'll be able to say, everyone come down here with an AK-47 and start killing people, I don't know.
I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying I think it's not quite as simple as, ban harmful things, because many of the things that have created the world we live in today were at the time considered harmful by the powers that be.
I also don't think that people saying that we should overthrow the tyrant should be something that you should ever get rid of from your platform. Now, the question of whether or not, so around January the 6th, that became a real question for platforms.
Correct. Yeah.
So, I live 5 blocks from the Capitol, or I used to until 2 days ago when we moved. But the question there is whether or not the spreading deliberately of lies, which were amplified by algorithms, normalizing the idea that the election was stolen, should be permitted on a site in the context of potential real violence in an established democracy over an election result. People can decide for themselves. Those platforms can decide for themselves. But I think most of them concluded that it was unacceptable, which is why they took action to ban those people.
Okay. What? What? Let me fucking hear that again. That makes... what the fuck are you talking about?
Permitted on a site in the context of potential real violence in an established democracy over an election result. People can decide for themselves.
Okay, pay attention. I heard something questionable here.
Those platforms can decide for themselves. But I think most of them concluded that it was unacceptable, which is why they took action to ban those people.
Like he tried to manipulate big tech companies and platforms into banning me and taking down my content. Yet he's saying those platforms can decide for themselves. He's the fucking one who made an entire campaign to go after me. Try to take me down from Reddit, from Google. Put a bad Wikipedia page up about me. Take down stuff from Facebook. He weaseled his way into trying to get platforms to deplatform me. But he's saying they can decide for themselves. So, no problem him trying to fucking influence those platforms. But he's also saying, they'll be able to do it themselves. Let them do it themselves. No influence from him. He's trying to influence. This is why the American government, including Marco Rubio and Donald Trump, tried to remove him from the United States. Because he's trying to, in the words we saw related to Marco Rubio, coerce American platforms into censorship, demonetization, canceling. Let me find that again. Where is that? The exact quotation. Coerce. Coerce was in there. Where was that? Coerce. Maybe I closed the tab. Well, let's just search Imran Ahmed, coerce, Marco Rubio. Trying to silence. Ah, man. I typed that in wrong in the first place. There we go. BBC, 26 December 2025. Imran Ahmed was among 5 people accused of seeking to coerce U.S. firms into censoring free speech. I'm going to share this tab. Let's take a look at all these sources here. Again, Imran Ahmed was among 5 people accused of seeking to coerce U.S. firms into censoring free speech. What else is here? Let's just highlight coerce. Let's make sure it's in there. Coerce American platforms to censor, demonetize, and suppress. Let's put that in there. New York Times. Marco Rubio said himself he has led organized efforts to coerce American platforms to censor, demonetize, and suppress American viewpoints. They oppose. Let's go back to sure. Close the tab there. Show that again. Let's see the comments here. Just do it like that. It's better. Photo money. Who funds this guy? Yeah, just check the Wikipedia page. It tells you. It literally, like, you know that chocolate company, Cadbury? That's one of them. There are multiple sources mentioned on Wikipedia giving money to this fucking guy. It's not just someone, it's multiple organizations are funding this fucking guy. Let's keep it going.
And are
you
you comfortable with the sitting outgoing president of the most powerful country in the world being prevented from speaking in public?
Yeah. In what way is
Well, he
Donald
was
Trump
banned from all the social media platforms.
Did you stop hearing from Donald Trump? Were you worried about his ability to get his message out?
Well, his ability to get his message out was definitely reduced significantly, as you said yourself. When you ban people from social media, you said it yourself, they lose reach, right?
Yeah.
So you can't make the argument both ways in one conversation. And the other thing I would say is the precedent that's set, I think, is very dangerous. And if you talk about people being able to criticize a tyrant, well, the tyrant would always say this is misinformation. Look at what Justin Trudeau did in Canada.
On Trump,
he took away people's bank accounts.
On Trump,
which was crazy. Like, I have nothing to do with what was going on with the trucker protests or whatever, but I know it's what it's like to have your fucking account frozen. I know people who experienced that. You're useless. Like, you can't buy anything, you can't pay for anything. It is literally tyranny.
I have to admit, it was a marginal. I think it was one of the most difficult cases that we've ever come across. He did spread disinformation deliberately that undermined the values that underpin democracy and deliberately cast doubt on the electoral system despite knowing better.
So did Hillary Clinton.
And a lot of politicians do that. You know,
did she get banned? No. So this is the double standard that people talk about.
If I may finish, I think that the decision that was taken by companies was actually primarily to do with currying favor with the incoming administration, who felt that they'd not been treated well by those companies, rather than a decision that was taken on principle. Again, it's why transparency on content enforcement decisions, on whether or not people are, I want to know whether or not shadow banning actually exists. I'm not convinced it does, but maybe it does.
What exists? Sorry, I didn't catch.
Shadow banning.
Shadow banning.
Yeah.
People talk. The thing is, there's no evidence. Again, opaque.
There's no evidence of shadow banning. There is. It's just, I understand like what he's kind of trying to say. Like, what the fuck is a shadow ban? You kind of don't know if you're being punished or if you're not. It is real. It's definitely real on Instagram. It's real on YouTube too. I know that for a fact. It is a real thing. And a shadow ban is it's much simpler than what you think it is. It's like something's taken away from you. There's a feature that's banned on your side where you're effectively banned from doing something with no explanation or no warning. That is basically a shadow ban. And a lot of people don't know, am I shadow banned or not? That's basically all there is to it. Like, you're banned in some kind of way, but they just didn't tell you. It is common. And of course it confuses people like this guy because they're not told about it. Unofficial bans and feature removals for specific users does exist. They don't have time and resources to they have time and resources, but they don't care enough to inform you that you're shadow banned. or that you're banned. Because in that case, if they do inform you, you're not shadow banned, you are banned from doing something. The only difference between being banned and being shadow banned is banned, they tell you about it. Shadow banned, you're not told about it. Or like banned, it's really obvious what happened. Like you can't fucking log in, it says your account is banned, that kind of thing.
Systems that don't tell you what's going on. Like one of the few times that we've ever been told what works on these platforms and what doesn't is when Elon took over and it all turned to shit and everyone realized that Elon had actually demanded that his content be amplified over everyone else's because he was pissed off that Joe Biden's tweet about the Super Bowl got more views than his tweet did about the Super Bowl. Do you remember that?
No.
He deliberately instructed engineers to come in all night and work out how to ensure that his tweets never got less visibility than Joe Biden's, because Joe Biden's tweet saying that he was going to be supporting one team or another got more views than his tweet saying go Eagles or something. I mean, that's how bonkers this guy is. So we know that they can put their thumb on the scale. We know that they had an active promotion.
Like this guy was doing, trying to coerce platforms into censoring, demonetizing, and literally canceling people, like he tried to do to me, trying to put his thumb on the scale.
List. The question of whether or not they have an active shadow banning list. Anyway, with the Trump decision, I actually think it was a marginal case. I'm not quite sure what I would have done. It's a really difficult decision to take. I think that if they felt that there was a specific instance in which he'd broken their rules in such an egregious way that they had to ban him, they should have explained that much more clearly. And they didn't. And again, it's because they are judge, jury, and executioner with no oversight, no checks and balances. And I mean, ultimately, I do, I mean, it's funny being someone who very, very strongly believes in something, but not in everything, if you know what I mean. Like, I very, very, very strongly believe in checks and balances.
Well, okay, so like, respond to your fucking emails then. Checks and balances, you didn't even get basic things right and never fucking responded about it. He really believes in checks and balances, but he refuses to do it himself. Liar. Absolute fucking liar.
Strongly believe in being able to be able to see what decisions people have taken and be able to criticize them. But I don't have a particularly strong opinion on what decisions they should have taken, especially when it comes to something like Trump. I think when it comes to something like banning anti-Semitism, I'm really pro it. I see the way in which lies have underpinned enormous, enormous human damage, cost over millennia. I'm very interested in how lies have underpinned hatred against Jews. I've just, at the moment, I'm rereading Elaine Pagel's book, The Origins of Satan, where she explains how decisions taken on which gospels support in the New Testament were actually, and the creation of Satan as a concept, as an equal and opposite force to God, was actually there to demonize Jewish people, to create this idea that Jewish people were the perfect enemy of godliness. So I am interested in all that stuff, and I do think you should ban certain types of hate. I think hate is a pernicious virus underpinned always by lies that has
what? Is he talking about himself here? Like, is he hearing himself? This is what he did. The fuck is he talking about? Look at how uninterested Konstantin Kisin is. Look at his face right here. It is perfect. He's just like, this guy is so fucking boring to listen to. Man, I love these two fucking guys here. They're fucking hilarious without even fucking trying. He's this guy on the left, I don't know his name, but he's trying really fucking hard to listen. Guy on the right here, Konstantin, he's just like, this guy is just talking a load of shit. Oh my God.
An enormous human damage does enormous damage to lives, to livelihoods, to people's ability to enjoy their full rights, and that every time you give free speech to haters, you actually reduce the fundamental human rights of the people who are victims of that hate. But I do think that when it comes to this kind of discourse, you should, I'd rather have more discourse about, and more informed discourse about the way they operate and the impact they have on our societies and the individual decisions they take, because these are important decisions.
Mhm.
Banning a president, fucking hell, what a huge thing to do.
Correct.
Enormous decision to take. Why him and not the Ayatollah Khomeini?
Exactly.
I mean, seriously.
Exactly.
That guy is spouting nutty bollocks all the time. Hate against Jews. Utter lies about democracy, utter lies about what he's doing in his own society. Why is he allowed to have a platform on it?
And funding terrorist organizations, which destabilize the Middle East.
Completely.
Guys, we're running out of time. So let's wrap up.
So this is a point that I wanted to make, and I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this. The reason, Imran, I'm so suspicious of governments is because I think, especially post-pandemic, governments have taken a more authoritarian turn when it comes to free speech. I'll give the example of Scotland. Scotland have introduced hate speech laws which criminalizes public performance. So if you do a public performance, and for instance, in the example they use is plays, but it will also be other types of performance like stand-up comedy, and you say a form of hate, they define hate as something that a reasonable person would find hateful, that is now a criminal offense. And I am very worried and very suspicious of governments who introduce hate speech laws, which are excessive in this instance. I wouldn't trust, for example, the SNP to run anything, and I certainly wouldn't trust them to dictate or to start implementing what we can and can't say online.
Oh, look, I mean, I think I'm a lefty. Like, I don't think governments should be telling us what to say or think. I think that, governments have balanced, balanced things in the past. Like, there are, of course, rules on hate speech in the UK. And I think of the case of Alison Chablos, who was jailed for publishing a song in which she went beyond offensive into grossly offensive. And she published a song which was mocking the victims of the Holocausts, making fun of them and the families of those victims and the survivors. And that was deemed to be illegal, malicious communications, and she was jailed for it. I think about public order offences. And of course, we've got that balance right over time, I think, generally speaking. And where there's been extensions of those to deal with, some of it's kind of virtue signaling policy making. And it's like, well, look how liberal we can be. And they're actually being incredibly illiberal. I tend to think the SNP will end up being kicked out of office for that, to be frank.
Mm. But the law will stay on the books.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Well, it depends on who's in power next, right? It depends.
Well, it's probably going to be Labour, and I can't see, in all honesty, Labour wanting to repeal that.
I think, honestly, I'm not familiar with this, with what's happening in Scotland. I really haven't kept up with British politics in the last 4 years, apart from the Online Safety Act, which I was very, very involved with. But I can see why people would be very, very, very concerned about those rules. I know as well with C63, which you're talking about in Canada, there's concern about that as well. And I'm going to be going to Ottawa to give evidence on that in due course in the next few months. So that you have to be cautious about, and I think that they're almost dealing with the symptom rather than the cause.
Correct.
The cause is, of course, the hyper acceleration of the most offensive speech, the normalization, which is causing the resocialization of our societies to make normal the idea that hatred against other people is acceptable. And where people think that hatred is acceptable, they will start to mobilize into other forms of action as well, beyond just speech. And I think that when you have a society in which hate is given an advantage over tolerance, bad things will happen in that society over time. And so the question of how platforms work at a systemic level, I think, is absolutely open for go in and attack them, have a look at the algorithms, demand transparency, do all that stuff. But banning individual bits of speech, dumb shit, dumb thing to do, ends up in very, very bad places, ends up with people like me being told I can't hold certain opinions about things, or you and other people. And then you're in the tyranny that you're trying to avoid.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we've ended on a note of agreement. We're going to go to locals for our supporters' questions
Where we're going to disagree again.
in a second.
What's locals?
It's a platform where we post bonus content. Go there in a second when we wrap up. But before we do, we always end with the same question, which is, what's the one thing we're not talking about as a society that you think we should be?
Just, I don't know. I'm not really very opinionated about these things.
I have an interesting answer, but it's a bit heavy for YouTube.
Don't know.
There we go.
There we go.
Head on over to locals where we ask.
Oh my god. What the fuck? Oh, that was too good. Oh my god. What timestamp would that be like?
Don't know.
Oh my god. Again. That is let me go back far enough.
As a society that you think we should be?
Just, I don't know. I'm not really very opinionated about these things.
Hmm.
Don't know.
There we go.
There we go.
Head on over.
There we go. Oh, what the fuck? There we go. He doesn't know. There we go.
Over to locals where we ask Imran your questions.
Classic political answer. Not brave enough to say what's on his fucking mind. You could see the hesitation there. Oh, wait. What in the fuck was that? Oh, my God. Okay, let's see these comments here. Yeah. Let me look at this. Ice, you should debate Imran Ahmed. It will be epic and easy, but he doesn't answer emails. Yeah, let me actually respond to this in some good detail. So I'll go for those emails too. Let's do that right now. Where did I want to show this? Let's close these tabs. Let's try this one. What in the fuck? That was just insane. All right, let's see this. For some reason, it's just not registering this the screen share. That is weird. What the fuck? It doesn't want me to share this. Try again. Come on. What is this? Man, what the fuck is up with the screen share? Strange. Let's try it this way. Let's try it this way. What? Okay. Let's go for entire screen. Here we go. So, like, these are some snippets of maybe one email, at least one email. We'll see how far this goes. Oh man, yeah, it's a few images. My email to the CCDH and Imran Ahmed. Greetings. I have read an article that mentions CCDH and myself. However, I noticed a lot of inaccuracies and misleading information. I'm not being mean here or anything. I'm just saying the truth. A lot of people, when they say, I'm just saying the truth, they are being mean. I am such a neutral fucking person a lot of the time. You didn't come to me, so I am coming to you, because I believe that if you actually wanted to stop hate, then you would cooperate with us and provide us with recommendations. Maybe this is cutting out a bit of the email before. I'm just showing some highlights here. But, you know, I'm pretty sure Imran wouldn't show you this. This is something you seem to have ignored, not once, not twice, but at least 3 times when we openly requested it. So those are hyperlinked. I wonder what I put all those years ago. I have only, as stated, briefly looked at your website. I think what you're doing to stop the lies around vaccinations is great. My family has lost people to the virus, and people are trying to stop scientific progress, are a pain in the ass, and are influencing the amount of deaths. Like, I'm kind of seeing, like, I'm pretty sure you're doing some good stuff in like this field and whatever. That was a hot topic at the time. We can achieve much more together if we formulate acceptable guidelines, acceptable glossary terms, which I have done completely by myself and with the passionate people of the seduction community without the help of Imran Ahmed and the CCDH, because they never responded to any emails or messages that I ever sent them. More efficient moderation to keep those trolls out who are saying weird things. I hope that you can understand this long and tedious message, most of which I skipped for the sake of not making this a 10-hour long live stream, despite the negative labels you have already applied to us. Just know that if we didn't care, we wouldn't say anything. Here's the guy, Imran Ahmed, Chief Executive Officer. Imran Ahmed is the founding CEO of the Center for Countering Digital Hate. He is recognized authority on the social and psychological dynamics of social media, as well as what goes wrong in those spaces, such as trolling. Well, he didn't fucking recognize that when I specifically revealed in their investigation in the comment section on Google Docs that the person who was trolling was not a member and was banned an entire year before their investigation. Identity-based hate, which is funny because they're targeting us because we're a strange segment of society called the seduction community. Misinformation, which they have put in their fake news article on the Sunday Times. They couldn't even get my fucking name right. They couldn't even get the name Game Global right on their own fucking website. Misinformation. That's not to mention all the other misinformation that we went through earlier. The part about Asians being racist towards Asian people for saying good things about Asian women. What the fuck was that? And what was the other thing? Calling someone a member when they were banned a year before. Complete insanity. Conspiracy theories. I have one or two conspiracy theories about this guy. Modern extremism and fake news. Again, this guy tied to that fake news article from the Sunday Times. I wanted to fucking sue them, but there's a statute of limitations for 1 year after the publication of the email. After I live stream this video, I will be writing to a certain, I forgot the name of it, but it's in my notes, a certain organization that manages the transparency of journalism in England. I will be writing to them, and they will have 4 months to look into the article and make corrections accordingly. Because journalism, there's a responsibility to the truth, not to posting fake bullshit about people. You can't even get people's fucking name right. Like, what kind of research is this? When I was 14 years old, I could have done better research than that. It's simple technological competence and a matter of intelligence. He regularly features in the media, of course he does, as an expert. The video has not frozen. I have personally frozen because I'm so surprised by that. In online malignant behavior and how bad actors use social spaces to harm others and benefit themselves. Imran is a trustee of the UK charity Victim Support, something I should be a member of because I tried to email him. I'm a victim of this guy. He advises politicians in the US, UK, Europe, and elsewhere on policy and legislation. Yet he can't even do fucking research right. Imran was raised in Manchester, England. He holds an MA in social and political sciences from the University of Cambridge. They should fucking take that away. Imran lives in Washington, D.C. Blah, 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 blah. I'm going to stop sharing that now. Perhaps, was there, yeah, if he's watching this right now, or what, if he ever watches this video and sees me saying this right now, I would personally want an explanation of why all my emails have been ignored, all my messages on Instagram and whatever platforms I used have been ignored. I invite him to come on. Perhaps we should have a debate, a friendly one. Now, perhaps I have been passionate at times, like he was in the video we just did a commentary on. But there were things that I agreed with him on. And even in my email, I acknowledged that perhaps there were some good things that they were doing. There is common ground in all of us. And if this guy is to run an organization such as the CCDH and claim to be anti-hate, then he should be able to agree with me that we should all find some fucking common ground somewhere. So I invite him on to our YouTube channel, Game Global. I invite him to say the words Game Global instead of Global Game, to get my name right and have a conversation. If he wants to make it malicious, whatever. Personally, I'm not really going to play that game. I would just like to have an honest conversation. If he is genuinely interested in helping women and detoxifying the pickup community, then surely he should be exploring the common ground here, because I presented that to him and he didn't give a shit. He didn't respond. His organization didn't respond. He didn't respond either. So much for that. Let's see these other comments, or maybe let me look at, yeah, these hyperlinks that I mentioned before. Let's see. They link to Reddit posts here. Yeah, one of the references is the game Glossary, an old version, which was the draft on Google Docs. And he was given access to that. Didn't fucking care. Yeah, at this point, it's a little, basically there, you can find them very easily on Reddit. One's titled Feminist Read This on the r/daygame subreddit. I don't really need to go through that. And another one is Defending Game Global after these attacks. When was that? 5 years ago. That was a day before that article was published. So that was because of this whole thing. Essentially, a list of 10 things in 2021 that I have done or that we are doing to reform the PUA community. It's probably worth screen sharing this, actually. Let's do that. Here we go, some examples. Not that they're going to necessarily give a shit. Honestly, I welcome this guy to debate me, to have a conversation with me, cooperate, find some common ground. I would fucking love that. He's a married man, so am I. We have things in common. There were some things I agreed with him on in that Triggernometry interview. I think there are some good things that he mentioned, but there are some other things which seem extremely contradictory. But for 5 years almost, I've kept this to myself because it was genuinely hurtful, which is ironic coming from an anti-hate group. But anyway, here we go. What are we doing to form the PUA community? Game Glossary, we already talked about that. Create a space run by a man who is married and has at least one daughter to ensure the community is run by a pro-woman man at heart, in mind, and in family. Improve moderation. Turning a certain subreddit, which I took over, into a positive subreddit. Producing videos about consent. Holding coaches accountable, perhaps. various other things. But essentially, it's just unbelievable at this point. Like, no, you heard that guy say 6% of Americans actually trust the media now in the last few years because of stuff like this. Also, there's a guy you may know called Andrew Wilson. A Canadian guy who does a bunch of debates. He has a very harsh opinion about PUA in game. Have you seen any of his arguments? I haven't seen that. I know like what he looks like. I know he's been on whatever podcast and shit like that. I could find common ground with anyone. I'm not one to throw someone into a pit of mud. Like, we could have John Anthony Lifestyle on here, and I can be positive, neutral with him at the very least. And maybe it's in his nature to come on strong and be negative about that kind of shit. If you have frame control, you can handle anything. Like, you can handle someone disagreeing with you and still find some fucking common ground. If you're able to turn negativity into positivity, that is such a fucking superpower. It is so underrated. Nobody fucking talks about that. Maybe that's something me and Imran should discuss. I invite this man on here. Please reach out to me. Please respond to my email. Please respond to my message on Instagram. We're looking forward to it. Imran, if you were watching, you made a fool of yourself. Hate speech. I'm gonna nickname Imran Ahmed. You called him out in the email, just a few words, no reply from him. How convenient. He's a useful idiot for an agenda. What are they saying about you? Let's if it works, let's show this one more time. It's kind of glitching out here. It's weird. It's a shadow ban. It's a conspiracy. Right. Let's try to open this again. Can I screen share that? It's not fucking working. Well, I can technically do it. It's just more annoying. There we go. Misogyny. Blah, 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 blah. I blurred a lot of things just to keep it more brief, and a lot of them were, completely made up. It's not even worth reading. They got my name wrong. I don't want to give attention to and confuse people. Like, there are things out there that claim my name is John or Mitchell or all these other fucking things. My name's 8 letters long. You fucking know what it is. There was something here, actually. I don't know, I'm thinking of another part. Ironically, the only one of the 3 of us who was not using their full legal name was this guy. Now he is. So it's a little cultural thing. We put out a quiz maybe 1 or 2 years ago where I was like, which one of us is using a pseudonym? Is it Joe? Is it Kieran? Or is it Ice? Is it me? And correct answer, this guy. But of course, a lot of people think it's me. But then there are people who have seen, like, travel with me or whatever. Like, they know my fucking name. Even Justin Waller, first meeting I had with Justin Waller, he was arguing with me about what my name is. I'm like, I know what my fucking name is. We were fucking arguing about that shit. I'm like, I exist? What the fuck? It's all fun. Justin's a cool guy. He's a hateful person, bullied by the mass media, mainstream media, canceled on YouTube. Yeah. Like, here's one of the crazier parts. Like, a troll came in. He was banned the same day he wrote this. And I proved it earlier. And they said he's a member. No, he was not a member. He was a member in the sense that he was part of a Telegram group, but I don't control who comes in. Anyone can fucking come in. A troll came into the group, said something fucking crazy, and he was banned the same day. Almost a year later, 27 June 2021, almost a year later, they're like, yeah, let's put that in. Even though he was banned for saying that, it is complete crap. But anyway, yeah. See if I'm missing anything here. Let's see in the chat. Right, final things. Oh, yeah, okay, this is what I wanted to show as well. Perhaps the last thing. So, the copy of what they sent, which has 89 comments from me correcting them on things and 38 pages. These are the infiltrators. It's crazy. They call themselves infiltrators. Many thanks in advance, and please let me know if you have any questions or would like to discuss further. I put 89 comments. When do you feel like responding? Like, come on. Let's put me down here. Infiltrators of the groups. Sophie Wilkinson from The Guardian. Shanti Das, The Sunday Times. Oh, shit, it's going crazy here. Sophie Wilkinson, The Guardian. Shanti Das, The Sunday Times. CCDH, Center for Countering Digital Hate, which should be CFCDH, but who fucking operates logically anyway? And anyway, speaking of The Sunday Times, once again, bestseller, 50 Shades of Grey. #1 Sunday Times bestseller. Great fucking stuff, man. You can't make it up. Completely crazy. Like, they would put all these things here. All these things here. These users were banned, but you failed to report on that. I don't think there's much more we need to show. I pretty much covered everything. I'm just trying to remember if there was anything else. But yeah, I will be writing to IPSO, about that article in 2021. It remains online, so they have an ongoing responsibility for its accuracy. According to Clause 1 of the Editor's Code, the press must take care not to publish inaccurate, misleading, or distorted information or images, including headlines not supported by the text. #2, a significant inaccuracy, misleading statement, or distortion must be corrected promptly and with due prominence, and where appropriate, an apology published. I look forward to that day. Significant inaccuracies. Significant. It is completely crazy. So I will be looking into that. Here's something you guys can do. Feel free to email them. Feel free to send a message to them. A nice one. A nice one. I'm not spreading hate here. I like to make sure that this is a wholesome thing. I would like to invite him to debate. I invite him to respond to his fucking emails. I invite him to respond to my message on Instagram. There's somewhere we can make good things happen. There's mutual ground to be had somewhere. And we have the power to make it positive. So you guys watching, whoever's watching this right now or in the playback, I encourage you, if you're willing, to email Imran Ahmed, send him a message on Instagram, drop some comments on their Facebook page and their Instagram account, calling to reply to I Sweat, to cooperate instead of ignore, with requests to help reform the seduction community in a positive way and detoxify. That is my message. again, I had some passionate moments calling these guys out for their shit, but I can see beyond that. I see the opportunities, not the opportunities to hate on people, but the opportunities to improve. There's mutual ground here. On that note, it's nuance. It's fucking nuance. There's always nuance to this kind of shit. Only the intelligent will comprehend how this works. Catch you guys on the other side and game the fuck on. One last thing. I would especially be very interested. I think Imran would be interested in this. Having a, if we want to debate it, whatever, we could have a segment where we talk about control in relationships. He was talking about Andrew Tate telling guys that a man needs to dominate the relationship. I don't know the exact words Andrew Tate used, but that's something we can discuss because I think there is something very interesting there, genuinely. If a man stops, dominate is a harsh word, just like dictator. Julius Caesar was the dictator of Rome. Some people loved the guy. Some people hated him and killed him. Dictator, democracy, these sometimes are construed as bad words. Just like dominate. So that maybe that's something me and Imran can discuss. Should he be willing to respond to your emails, my emails, your messages, my messages? I positively invite him on here. We can discuss that shit. And I think there really is value to be had in terms of where a man actually stands in a relationship. Because I've been on both sides. I can see 50-50, man, that's great. We both work, we both pay for the house kind of thing. My wife can't work because she has terminal cancer. I am forced into the position of leading harder than initially I was led to believe I should be by the political system, by the educational system. I believe that as men, we need to have more leadership, positive masculinity. So that's something I think we can discuss in a very wholesome, non-aggressive way. On that note, catch you guys on the other side. Game on, and don't fucking lie about this shit. There's common ground somewhere. I would love to have you on.